All right, now we've got Super Wild Card Weekend in the books. We got a divisional round that's set, and it's certainly intriguing. We're happy to have you. 615-737-1045, the number. Get in there if you want to. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch is how you get involved. Vikings crash out last night in Arizona. Of course, the Rams hosting a playoff game, but not really hosting a playoff game because of what's going on in Los Angeles, the ongoing wildfire situation. Of course, keeping all of those people in our thoughts. L.A. winning one for the hometown team, 27-9. Sam Darnold, one of his worst performances of the year, 2 back-to-back performances, both in Week 18 with the NFC North title up for grabs. And then last night, for the ability to keep their postseason hopes alive, puts together 2 of his worst performances so far on a 14-win team. And listen, Kevin O'Connell's probably going to win. We fully expect. Good morning, by the way. How's everybody?
Hello, good morning.
We fully expect Kevin O'Connell to win Coach of the Year.
Oh, is it that much of a slam dunk?
Who else would you submit?
I feel like Dan Quinn should firmly be in the conversation.
It's entirely possible. One a 14-win team, one a 12-win team, one doing it with a rookie quarterback, another doing it with a rehabilitated quarterback. Perhaps it's not as much of a given as I think it is in my head. Those are regular season awards, so they've already been voted on. And their postseason situations, the Commanders beating the Buccaneers to advance, the Vikings losing last night to L.A., those things don't have an impact on the vote. The vote's done. But, it's entirely possible. Dan Quinn is certainly a good candidate. I am curious to see what conversation results around Darnold, because that is somebody who Titans fans have, some Titans fans, maybe not all Titans fans, maybe not even a majority of Titans fans. But as you're evaluating your quarterback options heading into another tumultuous offseason, he may or may not be one. We'll see what they do with him. They could franchise tag him, and it may be a non-issue. But I wonder how much that narrative has changed for Titans fans looking at Sam Darnold as a viable option. Doesn't mean that he's not still viable. Just means you got to understand what you're signing up for.
Stark contrast between the 2 quarterbacks that played last night in terms of how they play in the most important moments. Darnold collapses in the regular season finale in the battle for the 1 seed against Detroit, and last night, sacked 9 times last night, 11 in the last 2 games. He's completed 53% of his passes in the last 2 games, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and those 11 sacks, versus Matt Stafford, who now is 18-3 as the Rams quarterback in the months of December, January, and February.
Pretty good. Trust the quarterback, the devil you know, even if Matt Stafford may have some things that, especially at his age, that you might question, or some things about the roster construction of a 10-7 team who ended up, they were okay at home this year. They were 5-4 at SoFi this year. They weren't any kind of a dominant force, but a lot of questions coming in to this year about the Rams defense, specifically with Aaron Donald and his retirement, those rookie defensive linemen specifically continuing to show up last night. Jared Verse, an absolute force, not just because he had the fumble 6 situation. By the way, how pissed is Minute? Did you catch any of the Manning cast of that?
I didn't watch Manning cast last night. I just watched the regular telecast.
I did too. I only saw the Twitter clips that came out, but Belichick was beside himself that Vikings fumble 6 situation was wiped off the board and the Rams one was allowed to stand.
What was my initial reaction at the Rams one? That's not going the Titans' way. You kidding me? It was overturned.
Way to make it about you.
It was overturned.
Yeah, I know.
Or to make it about us. We were in Nashville. To see that be a fumble, scoop, and score, and then overturned after the fact, I do not know how they had. Did you see that as total? I thought
if one should have been I thought if one was going to be ruled that way, the first one, then I thought the other one should have been as well. I thought that if they were going to call the Stafford play that way, then they should have done the exact same thing for Darnold. But again, consistency is all I'm looking for from officiating. And again, last night we did not get consistency because the variance between those 2 plays is non-existent from what I could tell.
I just did not see it as clear and obvious that Stafford was throwing that football. The ball came out of his hands, yes, and do I believe he was trying to desperately flip it out?
I've seen plenty of things that question my belief of what is clear and obvious that a quarterback is trying to throw a football.
But wouldn't have really changed the outcome, right? I guess momentum is a thing that we could talk about, but the Rams just stifled the Vikings. And Sam Darnold, it is odd what has happened in these last couple of weeks. Just the uncharacteristic misses that were not happening throughout the course of the regular season. Even on the touchdown pass to T.J. Hawkinson, kind of coming across the middle of the field, a transcontinental, as Mac always calls it, and then running the rest of the way for the Vikings' only touchdown. It was a terrible throw. I mean, it's low, it's behind him. Hawkinson had to twist his entire body to catch it at his rear end before turning and running with it. So just odd to see what's happened with Sam Darnold. Do you think he cost himself money?
Yes. It's because it's not just last night. It's 2 games. It's 2 games in the most important spot, right? Tannehill got hit a lot with this, yeah? That he would crumble in the most important moments, or that optically it looked like he crumbled in the most important moments. Obviously, the Cincinnati game is something that's highlighted. And he really didn't get that many opportunities at the postseason with Miami, right? They made a postseason appearance, but he got hurt in the last game of the season, and Matt Moore ended up starting a playoff game that Ryan Tannehill, with a playoff berth that he could have earned.
It's about
Tennessee,
the Bengals game. It's one game with Tannehill.
It's not just
yes,
one game.
Yes, it is. In the playoffs, it's one game.
No, come on. The Ravens game was not an overwhelming. The Ravens game here was not overwhelmingly an acquittal of Ryan Tannehill. And then honestly, the entire postseason run that they went on, because it was a run, it was Derek.
Right.
It's not something, the Bengals game is the biggest indictment of him, but there are many more instances that you could point to say, is this quarterback good enough to take you over the top in the most important spots? And the answer to that was decisively no.
Yeah, the answer was no, and you don't have a run game. What I remember,
are we so bored with Titan stuff that we're going to relitigate Ryan Tannehill and the clutch gene?
What I remember about that Ravens loss was that the Titans just could not run the football. That Derrick Henry, after running all over the Ravens in that overtime win in the regular season, was stuffed in that game by Baltimore, and the Titans gave up that big touchdown by Lamar Jackson. Ball game. I guess. And
also they were having success against Marlon Humphrey with A.J. Brown early on. That went away throughout the period of time. I think the left tackle situation that they were working with, because if memory serves, that was David Quessenberry for Lawan. That was the 2020 playoff game. That was the COVID playoff game. And Lawan obviously popped his ACL, 6 or 5 games into that regular season. And it just, it came to bear itself out in the most unfortunate spot for the Titans, which is they couldn't hold up on the left side and give Derek any level of wiggle room. And that was just something that was very easy for the Ravens to crash down on. So, Ryan Tannehill, was he clutch enough or not? But seriously, that's the kind of conversation that you have to start having around these veteran dudes that may or may not be available, because Darnold's a name that's going to be bandied about this offseason, whether it's Carr, whether it's Cousins. If Cousins ends up being something that's out there and available to be acquired, it doesn't sound like they're going to outright release him. Perhaps it'll be a trade for some team. Doesn't have to be this team. I would hope it would not be this team, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. This is the kind of discussion that has to be had around your quarterback options across the board, because it's not just about the 2 kids in the draft.
No,
I know it's not just 2 players in the draft, but it's the 2 at the top that we're talking about.
Sam Darnold did lose some money in the last couple weeks. I completely agree with you. But in the 2024 season, Sam Darnold, 4,319 pass yards, 35 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Find me another free agent quarterback with anything close to those numbers.
Oh, no, the numbers are fine. But what are the numbers without Justin Jefferson? What became the numbers when Darisaw, the left tackle, went down and their protection struggled, and you had a situation where Sam Darnold does not handle the pressure well?
My point is it not fair to say Sam Darnold still is likely the most coveted free agent quarterback?
Oh, yeah. No, he'll
in this cycle? Yeah.
He'll get paid. Even if the Vikings tag him, that's, 40?
Yeah, I don't think you watched Sam Darnold last night and said, I'd rather have Derek Carr. I don't know. It depends on the situation.
That's a really big spot. Carr obviously hasn't. What's the last meaningful game that Derek Carr's played? Like genuinely meaningful game that Derek Carr has played. It's been a long time.
Are you just talking about playoff games?
Games of consequence. Because the Raiders were not great towards the end of the Carr career. Obviously, Oakland, he was the best version of himself. They what was the year that they cleared out that he got hurt? After they had, I believe, a 12-win season, and then they ended up starting, was it Connor Cook started a playoff game?
In the playoffs. Yeah, 2016.
2021, they went to the playoffs.
They went to the playoffs with Carr?
but 2016 was the year that he didn't play in the playoffs. 2016, they had a nice season. He had a really nice season, 28 touchdowns to 6 picks.
What was that playoff
before
game,
going down? Texans, wasn't he? Weren't they playing the Texans?
No, they played the Bengals, who then
went on to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yes, in 2021.
In 21, they played the Bengals, who then came and beat the Titans.
Yeah, that's the last time Derek Carr was in the postseason. But also the last time the Titans were in the postseason, 2021.
No, it's crazy that it's been 3 years since we've talked about playoff football around here. Yeah. I know teams have longer streaks. Don't the Miami Dolphins have the longest streak going without a playoff win right now? I want to say it's somewhere in the 2-decade ballpark, which has to be an unbelievable suffering. And it's not enough to just make it to the postseason, right? Commanders won their first playoff game since 2006. Like you can't necessarily take these things for granted or assume that just because you've been competitive or been in the postseason picture that you belong back in the postseason picture, or that should be the standard each and every year, understanding that circumstances change. But it's crazy how long some of the streaks for these teams are that you associate with, at least regularly appearing in the playoffs, even if they're not winning a game. What do you got, Jackson?
Do you know the last Broncos quarterback that was drafted by the Broncos to win a playoff game? Or the only?
It's not Tebow.
It is Tebow.
Oh, my God.
Because Elway was not drafted by the Broncos. He was drafted by the Colts and traded.
What a stat.
No.
The only quarterback drafted by the Denver Broncos to ever win a playoff game is Tim Tebow.
That was my freshman year of college. That was like 2012.
Yeah, obviously they hope Bo Nix is on a trajectory to become second on that list. Bo Nix and Tim Tebow. Put him up in the rafters at Mile High Stadium.
Yeah, but how about the Broncos as a sample size for the franchise quarterback conversation? Because how many cracks have they gotten at the franchise quarterback situation, be it trade, be it draft, be it, Manning obviously was a free agent signing, and that's a different kind of conversation. But it ranges from Paxton Lynch. So many dudes.
Paxton Lynch to Russell Wilson. It's a wide range. Quickly on the Darnold thing, I understand that the criticism is going to be what he did in his biggest moments. But there are a lot of teams that are quarterback needy that just want to get back to even being in the discussion to be in those big moments. And Sam Darnold had a phenomenal regular season. So I understand. I agree that he probably lost himself some money, but there's plenty of teams right now in the NFL that desperately just want to get back to the playoffs, and they'll worry about winning playoff games when that time comes. Cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's just get back there, and Darnold could potentially get a team there next year.
There's also something about that Rams-Vikings game that's worth a conversation that we're going to have. What are we scheduled for that later in the noon hour today, about the idea of team building and what gives essentially Brian Callahan the longest leash here to try and get what he thinks he's capable of off the ground. Because, yes, Stafford matters, experience matters, veteran quarterback play matters. Sam Darnold also a veteran quarterback, and you would that's the antithesis of it, right? Veteran quarterback play matters, good or bad. It can have a hugely impactful, it can have a huge impact on your playoff proposition. But also, that Rams defense was gnarly last night. And there are a great many needs on both sides of the ball, even though the quarterback is the most important need and the sexiest talking point across all the different Titans things. I'm looking at Jared Verse and being like, I wish the Titans had one of those. 615-737-1045, the number. Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal. Patriots have a new coach. Titans fans obviously familiar with him. We'll catch up with Mike coming up next. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has been helping guys for over a decade, and many guys who have given up hope when it comes to ED treatment. They're here to clear up any misconceptions that you might have about getting treatment for ED, and they can very easily debunk those. Lots of men assume that if the pills don't work, they have no other options than irreversible surgery to treat ED, and the sad reality is that if you go to a doctor to get that kind of treatment, those may be the only protocols that they have available for you. Please do not go through irreversible surgery for ED treatment before you have talked to the experts at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. They specialize in men's sexual health issues. It's all they do, and it makes them the experts in the field. They have access to multiple protocols and options to treat ED based on your specific needs and what's going on in your body. So don't trust your health to an online pharmacy and don't feel like you're out of options. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is there to help you understand every available option for you when it comes to ED treatment. They have treatments for everything from low testosterone, ED, treatments that increase size and stamina, and everything else in between. So schedule an appointment online today at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for their Franklin or Midtown location, or call them 615-208-9090.
It's only 10:17 in the morning, but if you're anything like me, you're already getting hungry. You're already thinking about what the lunch spot is going to be for today. I've got your answer. It's Hattie B's. Hey, it's Lucas Panzica. I would never lead you astray when it comes to food. So trust me when I say it's the best hot chicken in Nashville, the best sides in Nashville, which, if you're like me, is very important to you. The Southern Greens, the pimento mac and cheese, bacon, cheese grits, so much more. Visit any one of their locations. Factory at Franklin, which, by the way, is doing breakfast now, open at 7 a.m. Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West, even the Nashville Airport. When you're flying in and out of BNA, every location open at 11 a.m., except, as I mentioned, the factory at Franklin open at 7. And look, the divisional round is upon us in the NFL playoffs. That means the Super Bowl is right around the corner. Bring the heat to your event. Have a party, wedding, or corporate function, a Super Bowl watch party. Let Hattie be your guest of honor. From drop-off catering to full-service staffed events, they've got you covered from hot to not and everything in between. There is something that works for everybody. Download the Hattie B's app today. Get a free dessert just by doing so. Start to build up those rewards. Visit HattieB.com and go to Hattie B's today.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Mike Giardi, Boston Sports Journal, was scared to try the Zoom thing again because of our technical incompetence around here. But here he sits before you if you're streaming on Zone TV, trying to look as best he can like a professional. At Mike Giardi is where you follow him. Giardi, Lucas is responsible for the many, many polls that come from my Twitter account, even though he would say, well, what are you doing, blaming me for something that's coming from your Twitter account? If I made you guess which word between Sam and Darnold that Lucas spelled wrong from my Twitter account this morning, which would you guess?
Oh, boy, it's got to be Sam, doesn't it?
That's right.
Well, it's the most creative ruse that Buck has come up with, this idea that I do anything from his Twitter account, Mike, when his name is clearly on it. So it is embarrassing on Buck to spell Sam Darnold's name wrong. I understand why he'd want to shove that off on me.
S-A-N is how you spelled Sam this morning, the one thing that you had to do.
If
you
anything,
did not do it correctly.
I should have just added an E at the end and called him Same Darnold. Am I right? Jackson, please.
I like that. I like that. That was well done. And you know what? As the king of the typo, embrace it, man. Walk right into it. Take it on.
No, but he doesn't have to because he gets to hide behind me and say it's his Twitter account. Look at this idiot.
How big time are you that you have someone running your own damn Twitter account? Use your own friggin' thoughts and words there, big boy.
The biggest, baby. The biggest. Mike Giardi
So he thinks.
Here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So there's always infighting around this show, as you well know. There's infighting going on at the Titans organization. How long before that starts with the Patriots under Mike Vrabel?
Mike's personality is an indicator. Yeah, I mean, probably by midway through like the second week. He wants what he wants, and I think he lived now, as you well know, 6 years in Tennessee. How he saw things go right and how they went wrong there, and I think you're going to take a very clear vision of what he wants here in New England. And look, thus far they're playing nice. You know, Elliott Wolf, they're having good talks, good relationships, but I never liked the idea of a head coach coming in with a GM who was here a year ago. And like, I like to put them on the same timetable. I'd like to have the same guys. And Ryan Cowden, you know, by all accounts is going to be here sooner rather than later. How's that going to work? Yeah, I mean, it definitely sets up in a manner in which there will be some butting of heads, for sure.
No, for sure, Ryan Cowden. I was talking to a variety of people last night. Ryan Cowden joining the Patriots staff is the biggest lock of the century after Mike Vrabel got that job. Why is he being treated as a war hero without a Super Bowl ring for an organization that has 6 of them?
Because the last 5 years here have been varying degrees of dysfunctional, and last year in particular, with the attempt at making Gerard Mayo a head coach, was all kinds of messy and lack of progress, dysfunction. I mean, it was just a bleep show from the beginning. Like, you're talking about, someone texted me yesterday, and I think that ended up all over Twitter about the idea, like, hey, this is the first press conference a head coach has had in New England in the last year where they didn't have to walk something back immediately. Like, that's what it's been like here. So you get this whole vibe of, like, he's a football coach, man. He knows how to set up a culture and how he wants to run things. And whether that turns out to be the thing that takes the Patriots back to the land that, you know, their fans have been used to, you know, remains to be seen. The roster needs a lot of work. The coaching staff is largely unfulfilled at this point. So I don't know, but I just know that he won yesterday strictly because he wasn't the other guy. He wasn't the guy before him who his time had come. Bill Belichick, his time had come at the end in New England. It was the right thing to move on. And okay, now you won that, but now you got to go out and execute it. You got to go get players. They don't have nearly enough.
Mike Giardi of the Boston Sports Journal is here with us on 104.5 The Zone, here to vent about the Patriots not hiring Deion Sanders, instead going with former Titans head coach Mike Vrabel.
Mike, I don't know that you know this, but Buck has a framed picture of Vrabel on his nightstand that he slowly caresses and looks at before he goes to bed every day.
It's like that X-Men meme that's all over Twitter.
And so I imagine that Patriots fans are the same way right now. But how long, the roster's in a bad state. We understand this. Is there going to be a breaking point where the very rational and logical thinking people of Boston start to turn a little bit? Like, how much equity does Mike Vrabel have in year one, you think, when we understand it's going to be a rebuild over there?
Yeah, well, I think he immediately builds some cachet or holds that cachet so long as he's not losing 40-7 every other week. You know, like the old regime was talking about, we were at 8 one-score games. I'm like, well, first of all, that's what the league is generally. And it was, what about the other 9 games that you're not mentioning here where you were literally getting run out of the building, you know, by the first or second quarter. And we're like, why are we all here? Why do we have to watch the same thing over and over again. And I don't look, I was going back and sort of going over some of the game logs in Tennessee, even at the end there. And there weren't too many of those games, even as that team started to erode, where you were like 40-7 and incapable of doing anything. Like that's what this was. But that's what it was every other week here in New England. So I think he definitely gets some leeway there because they're going to be a tough football team. They had no identity. They haven't had an identity for the last couple of years. I have no doubt that he's going to put his stamp on the football team and create that identity. And then, like I said, then it's just a matter of getting in the players that best fit that, and hell, getting a blue chipper, any blue chipper. They've got like 2 on the roster right now.
So is there this sort of blind faith in Mike Vrabel as a player evaluator, as a roster builder, understanding that he's going to have significant say in that front office?
And that he's never had to do it before.
Right. And that was, a criticism of him here towards the end. The roster certainly deteriorated. It didn't necessarily get better the more say he had in the front office. So does that inspire confidence in New England among Patriots fans, Mike Vrabel having a major voice in the front office?
I think just based on what they witnessed and what they're used to, where it was really one way for 20-something years with Belichick, that they're more comfortable with that idea than this whole collaborative bullcrap process that everybody likes to talk about now and rarely, if ever, works. I mean, you can talk about, say, for instance, San Francisco. Oh, it's collaborative and it's John Lynch's. No, it's Kyle Shanahan. John Lynch freaking negotiates contracts. Like, he's not. Kyle's got control over that program. So you start looking at these various situations where what does it look like? And it's like, even in Minnesota, like Kevin O'Connell is not the general manager. Kevin O'Connell's responsible for some of the players. Maybe that's not a great example after they got smoked last night, but they won 14 games when no one thought they were. So I personally, I'm not putting him on a pedestal for roster acquisition, that sort of thing. Like I don't know that he's going to be good at that. I don't, but I do know the culture aspect of it. And I do know, as you guys lived it, I've talked to a bunch of guys when I was covering the team. Talked to a bunch of guys since then, just sort of the feeling like, yeah, he's a hard ass. It's not easy to play for him, but like there are clear set expectations. And I don't think this team had that. So there are guys already on this roster who are like, we're going to embrace the inner a-hole of Mike Vrabel, if you will. Like, we need that. We don't know how to win. And we have a bunch of guys that don't know how to be pros, and they believe, and I believe, that Vrabel can help them in that regard.
Yeah, it's an interesting, because there's going to be parallels drawn between the Titans and the Patriots all year long, especially because they have a head-to-head this year, which is why it's so fascinating for both sides to kind of look at this, because we are currently covering a team without identity. But there was a clear drop-off in the last 2 seasons of Mike Vrabel. That roster construction you could directly attribute to the struggles that they were having, but also it wasn't good enough and he didn't get results. Why am I to believe that him taking over a basement dweller that is desperately in need of quarterback development, which is not something that is his strength, is going to be a good decision for this franchise? Because on face value, honestly, Mike, I think Vrabel is a good coach. I don't think this was the best choice for the Patriots.
Ooh, really? So, look, I understand the people that were in the Ben Johnson hive, or even if you want to go deeper, the Liam Cohen type, like, let's do that thing. And there were even some people here with the Brian Flores thing. And I would just say, well, that I would be real leery of the Brian Flores thing. He's a smart guy, and I'm sure he's changed some from, or maybe even changed a lot from what he was in Miami. But just knowing some of the stories about how things devolved in Miami, that would have to be one hell of an interview for me to want to hire him. But that's neither here nor there. I can get the idea of like, hey, we want to pair Drake May with this bright offensive coach. But I think last year, having hired a guy who'd only been an assistant for 5 years, never been a coordinator, never been a head coach at anything. I don't even think he was a head coach of his kids' flag football teams. Like, they couldn't go that route again. They just couldn't risk wasting another year and being in the same spot in 2025, 26 as they were in 2024, 25. In other words, like, we can't, I get it. Maybe Ben Johnson turns out to be the next Sean McVay.
Yeah.
He could also turn out to be Adam Gase. And they can't afford to have Adam Gase. They needed someone with an established track record. That's what they got in Mike. So I thought it was a no-brainer the moment they decided to move on from Gerard. Probably thought it was a no-brainer last year but we didn't quite know that there was succession language in Mayo's assistant coach contract. So they got it right 1 year later. And again, we'll see. Like, he's got to prove that he's adapted a little bit. He's got to prove that he can embrace a different style of offense or build it around or have someone to build it around the quarterback who's clearly your most talented offensive player. And so that's the next part of this process, right? Who's the offensive coordinator? What are they going to do? Are they going to try to make it look like it did this year in terms of the West Coast system, or is it going to be something completely different? And then you hope that when you turn it over to something completely different, that guy doesn't disappear in 2 years because you've had success, and then you got to go find another one, because it's not. I don't think it's real easy. People think you can just turn over the offensive coordinators. Some guys are good at it. Some guys aren't. Period. End of story.
You are just. I'm so excited for you to go through the Todd Downing experience at some point in your.
Oh my God! I'll tell you what,
That's the only one that you didn't text me about, Giardi. You texted me about Tim Kelly and Keith Carter. You didn't text me about Todd Downing. That's real.
No, I didn't, because I feel like I know enough about Todd Downing. Tim Kelly, for whatever reason, my memory of that year was vague. And I'm like, well, I can't really, I was like trying to go back and read stuff on it.
It was all bad. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, they were not a good football team, and there wasn't much happening there. So, Josh McDaniels is a name that's coming up quite a bit here. He's still being paid by the Raiders for like 3 more years at like 40. He's got like $42 million coming to him. So I don't know what the offset language is there, if there isn't any. And he still lives in Westwood, which is, 20 minutes away from Foxborough. Like, that's an obvious connection that people have made. I don't know that he's going to do that. I just he's not going to go anywhere. I know that. And he's a pretty good offensive coordinator. So maybe when you start looking at going, well, we could hire Tommy Rees, the Browns tight ends coach, a young guy. He's never coached quarterbacks in the NFL level. He played quarterback in college, but do you want to give it to a guy who's never coached quarterbacks and a first-year play caller, or do you want some stability at the hey, he's pretty good. Maybe it's not like cutting edge, but it's still pretty good. Even what he was able to do with guys not named Tom Brady. Jimmy Garoppolo when he got him ready, Jacoby Brissett when he got him ready. He even devised some sort of offense for Cam Newton, right? And Cam Newton, when he got to New England, he threw like you. Which is to say, not very well.
That's a fair assessment of my athletic abilities. At Mike Giardi is where you follow him.
Bob Kraft has caught a lot of criticism for how he handled the Gerard Mayo stuff. I think Buck paraphrased it last week in terms of, I'm so sorry for believing in you, right? And just the way he was apologizing publicly.
It was such trash, Giardi. I mean, I've been calling plenty of people around here trash or organizations trash locally, but I thought the Bob Kraft thing was so cowardly.
But my question is, if you were to give Bob Kraft truth serum, what do you think his answer would be to the question, at what point did the thought of, I can get Mike Vrabel in here, enter your mind and start to make that transition towards one and done with Gerard Mayo?
I think the thought entered his mind last offseason, even after they had the language in there and after they decided they needed to move on from Bill. I think the thought process in my understanding, the thought process in putting that language in place was they figured they had a couple of years at least before Bill was going to be shown the door. Bill would get his record. He would get it here in New England. And then, okay, it's time. Bye-bye. And instead, last year, 2 years ago, devolved very quickly. And Gerard was actually part of sort of the dissolution of that process. Sort of, there was not much of a relationship between he and Belichick in that final year. There was all kinds of back and forth on the coaching staff that wasn't great. So I think there was definitely a consideration last year when all of a sudden Mike became available. Like, do we want to? Should we? And they decided. Robert always talks about his emotion and I choose my coach like I chose my last wife and these sorts of things, which is a little too personal. But nonetheless, that's what he did. He went with it. And I think probably as early as May and June, they were like, did we make a mistake? Did we do the wrong thing? And there was a lot of effort to try to support Gerard as he navigated his way through the first season. If there's anything that I will say, Buck, it's not defense of Kraft, but he's right. He did put him in an untenable situation, replacing the greatest coach of all time with a craptastic roster with a guy whose Rolodex is so tiny that he couldn't even really hire any coaches. The general manager had to do most of that for him because he has connections around the league and Gerard didn't. So that part of it was horrible. So when you start with why did this 4-13 season happen, a lot of people will just point at Gerard. You have to point first at the Crafts and say, you put this guy in a god-awful position, and he got exactly what you probably should have thought you were going to get, which is a dysfunctional mess and having to make the decision to move on after 1 year.
Patriots with Gerard Mayo meet Titans with Rand Carthon. Same vibes.
Yeah.
Hey, looking forward to seeing Joe Milton beat out Drake May this fall.
Oh wait, no, I thought you guys were trading for him. I thought Tennessee was giving up their first second rounder and a future third to bring him back to Tennessee.
Oh, we'll even throw in Jeff Simmons to sweeten the deal. Just
Jeff Simmons might want to come here, right?
Quickly on the way out the door, Mike, because he got on Twitter and decided that he wanted to clarify things and said that it was an accident, that he liked a tweet that said that the Patriots should trade for Jeff Simmons now that Mike Vrabel's the coach. Buying or selling that Jeff Simmons tweet?
I would say that's like Lucas liking an OnlyFans models page on Instagram and then telling his girl that was an accident, right? Like I think that's about the same, right? Is that fair?
It's almost exactly like that, Mike. Yeah.
That's what I thought. I mean, I just,
Whoops.
I didn't mean to do that. I was scrolling through. I find that disgusting.
My finger slipped.
That's disgusting. Mike Giardi.
I could go a lot of places with that. I'm not going to.
I am so well. You already talked about the looking up at different things and the insides of different things that we will not. We will not broach.
I knew that when I said that, I was like, it probably didn't come out exactly the way.
Because we're a professional radio operation, we didn't bring it up.
And we're going to have to hear it over and over again.
That's right. It's going on the hot board. Welcome to the soundboard, Mike Giardi, the Boston Sports Journal. Get the hell out of here already.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
anytime,
Mike.
buddy.
That's Mike Giardi with us on 104.5 The Zone. So, to the point of what we just talked about with Giardi, I think that if you're looking at this like league-wide, Drake May is the best thing that the Patriots have going for them right now. Yes?
Oh, by a mile.
Why is Mike Vrabel the right person for that job?
Right. I mean, I'm skeptical to say the least in terms of roster building, quarterback development, staff hirings. I mean, who do you think is most likely? Which former Titans offensive coordinator is most likely to be Vrabel's OC in New England?
It's not going to be Todd.
Tim Kelly?
Yeah.
Yeah, who is not.
I mean, I don't know anything to say that Tim Kelly is going to be with the Patriots. But
it just will make so much sense, right?
Former Titans offensive coordinator. I don't know. Is Art still going to have a job in Pittsburgh? People really don't like the Art Smith experience in Pittsburgh.
They did not end the season well, but I mean, so many former Titans staffers working for the Giants, right? Ryan Cowden's headed to New England. The Patriots have requested to interview Shane Bowen, who's been the Giants defensive coordinator. Giants have granted that request. Tim Kelly's the tight ends coach of the Giants. So it would make all the sense in the world for him to just kind of join that exodus over to Foxborough. But we'll see. I'm skeptical to say the least.
615-737-1045. Jackson, do I have things to give away?
Yes, you have 2 tickets to see Metallica at Nissan Stadium on May 1st, plus a $100 Moments Peace gift card.
How about that? Metallica tickets for May 1st, plus a $100 gift card to a Moments Peace salon and day spa. All you have to do is call us, 615-737-1045, and tell us what in sports made you say, oh no. 615-737-1045 for the opportunity to win Metallica tickets on May the 1st and a $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. Call us and tell us what made you say, oh no, in sports this week. Of course, the segment is made possible by a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa, 9050 Carruthers Parkway in Franklin, or online at amomentspeace.com. Get something wonderful for you or the loved one in your life that needs to be a little more appreciated. amomentspeace.com for more information. All right, I'm going to start the bidding with Sydney Thomas. Now, you were unfamiliar with Sydney Thomas, which is shocking given your proclivity for OnlyFans models, as Mike Giardi of the Boston Sports Journal just pointed out. I'm sorry, Megan. This is a shameful way for you to find out about Lucas's deep and sad addiction.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. Look, great to have those allegations floating around.
It's so fun. Yeah, that's right. So Sydney Thomas, not an OnlyFans model, but she is a former, I think she's a sorority girl for Alabama. She came to notoriety because of the Jake Paul-Mike Tyson fight. She was one of the ring girls. She's since, gone on to have social media fame and these kind of things. She did a podcast interview and said she had celebrities and an SEC football coach slide into her direct messages following her appearance as the ring girl, or one of the ring girls, for the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight, apparently on the Like a Farmer podcast, which I'm not familiar with. She said that, it was from another SEC football team coach, as an Alabama student and alum. It was from another SEC football team coach, and they just DM'd me, Roll Tide. So now there's a picture of Sydney Thomas and Nick Saban at a golf event here recently. Lane Kiffin took the opportunity to quote tweet said picture of Sydney Thomas and Nick Saban and say, now we know who it was.
Oh, man.
Lane, shame on you. Also, just trying to throw... I think Lane Kiffin's getting back with his ex-wife, is the reporting in the news here recently about that whole situation. So perhaps it wasn't Lane Kiffin who's just trying to throw smoke screens and make Nick Saban's life a little harder. But it made me laugh. It also made me say, oh no.
Mine's Justin Herbert. We know he threw only 3 interceptions in the regular season. It was a league low. He had thrown 2 interceptions in the last 15 games of the regular season. 15 games, 2 interceptions, 4 in the playoff game against the Texans. Justin Herbert has his contract. He's one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. There's no more blaming Brandon Staley, right? There's no more excuses about still being a young quarterback on your rookie deal. My oh no has to go to Justin Herbert, who had that on his shoulders, took that momentum into the wild card round, and the Chargers' offense as a whole fell flat on its face. He completed 43.8% of his passes, the 1 touchdown to the 4 picks, took 4 sacks as well in a blowout loss, 32-12. Chargers, weren't exactly totally out of it, but the game never really felt in reach.
They took themselves out of it.
Yeah.
They kept getting early opportunities to cash in and kicking field goals, and ultimately they went on to score 12 points, and the Texans rolled them.
Yeah, the legacy type of games.
Yeah.
And as unfair as it might be, you called him the AFC's Dak Prescott. That's kind of what it is right now for Justin Herbert. He's got to start winning playoff games, and to crash and burn like that in the wild card round is what made me say, oh, no.
Future Titans legend, Dak Prescott, to hear FanDuel Sportsbook tell it. Go ahead, Jackson.
Mine is Anthony Edwards. He racked up his 5th fine of the season this week, all for things that have not happened on the basketball court. Do you want to know, in just a month, almost 2 months, 2 months this week, since November 17th, how much this man has been fined?
Please.
$285,000. Here are the incidents.
That's
November
unfortunate.
17th, he flipped a fan off and got a $35,000 fine.
Oh, worth it.
$25K for
Right,
using...
we can agree. That's worth it. I would, if I was a professional athlete, I would absolutely eat $35K to flick off a fan.
I disagree, but I don't, how, what does he make? What is the
He's doing okay.
ungodly amount of money.
He's doing okay.
$25K for using profane language during a media interview, $75K for using profane language and criticizing officials, calling them bleeping terrible.
Worth it.
$100K for using profane language in a post-game interview again, and then $50K for flipping off an official.
Worth it. All of it. What, I am so on Anthony Edwards' side here.
Yeah, but when it adds up to
That's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I don't know if it's worth $285,000.
Yeah, come on. Oh my goodness.
I don't know. It might be. If you're making that kind of money, who's to say? 615-737-1045 for the opportunity to win those 2 Metallica tickets to the upcoming show.
How many jet skis can you buy for $285,000?
Why jet skis?
I don't know. That's just what popped into my head. I was going to say yachts, boats, but if you're making the money Anthony Edwards is making, you're buying multi-million-dollar yachts.
Why, what is this obsession with water toys?
Jet skis are fun. You ever been on a jet ski?
I have.
That's a bold move for someone who can't swim.
Been a long time. Especially my aunt and uncle have a lake house in it's outside of Tampa, and they have a lake, but there's gators all in the lake, and everybody likes to go tubing on the lake.
Oh,
I'll get on the jet ski. I'm not getting on that tube, mostly because I can't swim, but also because I'd be easy gator bait.
A lot of lakes in Minnesota, right?
Yes.
Isn't that the thing?
Yes, that's so. Not a ton of time to take advantage of the lakes in Minnesota.
Yeah, that's true.
Because before they very quickly turn to ice. 615-737-1045, the number. How about we start with George? What you got, George?
Oh, yeah. Hey, guys. Hey, just piggybacking off that last segment, I was going to say, as a New England transplant, I know this year's seeing them let Mayo go just after 1 year. I just feel everybody's flailing, and I don't know that Vrabel's going to be very different. You know, you got rid of Belichick, you're going to bring in Vrabel. I don't know.
No, it's a worthwhile submission. Remember to stay on hold for the opportunity to win those Metallica tickets. I think it's fair criticism. I don't know that Mike is the best person to be overseeing the development of a young, promising quarterback, but also head coaching experience matters. And to Giardi's point, you don't want to hire the next Adam Gase. I mean, isn't that what Titans fans are worried about? Maybe he doesn't have the crazy, wacky eyes at the press conference like Gase did when, just to recklessly speculate, he looked like he was tripping on something. But the offensive-minded head coach thing should work in theory, but recently it hasn't had too many great head coaches emerge from that. It's fun and trendy to be Mike McDaniel until it's very much not, and Tua keeps getting concussed. Let's go with Big Sexy.
Hey, man, listen, there's no pause in this conversation. This call is going to be about all the callers that have called in this past week and in the past few weeks. Listen, when I hear this segment, I get excited. When I wait for dead air for the first 5 seconds, I say, oh, no, you people step up your game. This is a radio station. I used to call in back in the day, and I just sit there and shake my head. It is sad as can be. If that ain't good enough, because I really want these tickets, Mike Tomlin, every time he steps to a press conference, I say, oh, no, because this guy loves to hear his voice and says nothing when the conversation's over. That's all I got.
It's a good submission. I love that submission because the callers need to step up their game.
Yeah, but what about the Mike Tomlin one? I love when Mike Tomlin talks.
Yeah, until Mike Tomlin loses 4 in a row and then you peter out in a playoff game.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh fans are furious because of the team, looking a bit, frankly, not terribly prepared in those last 4 weeks. I think that is a fair criticism. And also Art Smith, baby. He's starting to look a little, respectfully, Arthur, he's starting to look a bit like J-Rob at the end. Look a little puffy. Need to get that under control.
Oh, look at you trying to fat shame Art Smith.
I mean, buddy, the side, I'm not doing it. It's the camera angles. The side angle is tough, Art. Got to get that under control. How about Jeremy next?
If everyone worried as much about camera angles as you, I'm glad people don't.
What's up, Jeremy?
Yeah, my no is going to be the Eagles fan with the Packers fan. I am all for defending your stadium, giving it to the other fans, giving them some fun living. But any place in the world, in my opinion, much less at a stadium where everybody should, want to, well, they have fun. I don't know if you guys seen the video, but I hesitate to call them gentlemen with the young lady and her boyfriend, husband, whatever it was. Bad idea on his part. You think by the time you reach that age, you're past that kind of stuff. But that is definitely my no. And that guy has. Hopefully they find out who he is. I think they already have, and maybe he's removed from the stadium. I know that's what they do over in the EPL. They have drones that'll fly around. You get out of line over there, they'll find you, find your picture, you're out. They'll ban you from the stadium. So no place for that kind of stuff, guys. And appreciate you.
It's a good one. You know what he's talking about? So there's Packers fans in attendance at this playoff game against the Philadelphia Eagles. There is an Eagles fan, and I told you how much I love Eagles fans. This is the kind of behavior that you warned me about. This Eagles fan is just ruthlessly berating this woman dressed in Packers gear, calling her an ugly see you next Tuesday.
Oof.
Yeah. And over and over and over again. not what you want. Guy's face very much on camera. Hopefully that person is dealt with however you need to be dealt with, preferably with not being allowed to return to that stadium.
Only 2 weeks after you called for Titans fans to be just like Eagles fans.
Yeah, I don't want that part. I don't want that part. I thoroughly enjoyed Eagles fans, but that's also because I was safe in the press box between 3 feet of glass and them. All right. I think it's Jeremy, even though Big Sexy speaks to me in a different way.
Calling for high standards, I appreciate that, but that's
it's Jeremy.
That's tough stuff.
All right,
in Philly.
We'll have more opportunities to win tickets. So just because you didn't win today doesn't mean that you can't win tomorrow when we do the dumbest thing in sports this week. So we appreciate that. Enjoy the concert and the $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. What buys Brian Callahan more time? We'll talk about it next.
11:01, good morning from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. Super Wildcard weekend wrapped up on Monday night with the LA Rams routing the Minnesota Vikings 27-9, earning themselves a trip to Philadelphia in the divisional round next Sunday. Meanwhile, the Titans' search for a new general manager continues as they bring back multiple candidates for a second round of interviews. Reportedly, those candidates include Chiefs assistant GM Mike Borgonzi, Bucks assistant GM John Spytek, and Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So the Titans season is over, but the next season we'll see the head coach enter on what we call the hot seat. 3-14, discussions having to be had both internally and externally. How real they ever got internally, we may never know. But it was at least broached, the idea of is it in the best interest of this franchise to keep Brian Callahan? Ultimately, they decided that it was in the best interest of the organization to keep Brian Callahan. Whether or not they'll be proven right about that, we all wait to see. If you're Brian Callahan, though, what buys you the most amount of time? Because there is some thought, and I think it might be closer to the conventional thought, that drafting a quarterback buys you more time. You think that's the way that most people think about the situation?
Yes, especially with the number one overall pick.
I think that is incorrect. Because then, if the quarterback does not reach whatever heights that ownership or potentially the front office expects said quarterback to reach, your clock, I think, is sped up when you bring that quarterback in and put the number one over. If you draft the quarterback number one overall, there is reason to believe that if they drafted a quarterback, it would be number one overall, depending on what the trade situation looks like. First and foremost, they should shop the pick, but I don't need to tell them that. I think that speeds your clock up more than, all right, let's put together the best football team possible. Let's see how many different needs we can address. If a trade that brings back sufficient draft capital in return is on the table here, if they're not absolutely in love with the quarterback draft class, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. To me, I think that building the best possible team and understanding this whole patience over panic mantra that Chad Brinker sounds like he's going to continue to, is that the new, got to coach better, play better? Is that the new, good to great, or whatever the slogans were for a period of time?
You act like these slogans and cliches are unique and don't happen with every coach on every team in every sport in America.
I acknowledge that they happen with every coach and every team in America. And then also I acknowledge that as soon as that doesn't happen, that it's an anchor around your neck for us to hit you over the head with.
Brick by brick.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good one.
Right? 5-star hearts.
Yeah. The best shower discipline? The best shower discipline?
Shower discipline. Butch had a litity of those. But, it went from, cliches to build your program to just saying dumb things that would just anger your fan base. But I digress.
Sure. You can differentiate between those two things. Reading the room. Also, you're capable of reading the room. Most of these people, for whatever reason, don't seem to be capable of it, but whatever.
But this is the first time that the messaging from the team has been about, okay, patience over panic, right? We understand this is going to take a while. Like, the foundation of this roster has such a long way to go to even get back to the mean, to get back to being 500 in the regular season, to being in the graphic and contending for a playoff spot. That's not really been the messaging for the last couple of years, right? Because a couple of years ago, with the last year of Vrabel, it was run it back, essentially. And then last year, it was, we checked all the boxes and the big swings in free agency. But we are guilty of this also. We looked past the fact that there was not really a foundation in place with the roster. in terms of players that you drafted, that the organization drafted.
You didn't know that yet because Will Levis hadn't done the Will Levis thing yet, and theoretically, Will Levis was going to be a part of that foundation. They treated Will Levis as if he was a part of that foundation, and then the foundation, was built on sand, and it all went crashing down. So I do think that they went into this with some level of understanding that Spears, Skoronski, Will Levis, maybe not Wiley or Colton Dowell or something like. Obviously, Colton Dowell not available this season. But like those three from the first draft were going to be a part of the foundation, and that the foundation would be continued to be added to with Latham and Sweat, and maybe not Brownlee on the onset, but it ended up being Brownlee, right?
And that is all the case. But at the moment, that's all you have at the moment in terms of the foundation of players you have brought in, plus Jeffrey Simmons, who's under contract, and Amani Hooker, and players that you drafted, which is, as we know, how you build a contender.
So the question becomes, does drafting a quarterback actually buy Brian Callahan more time as the Titans head coach? Maybe it's a moot argument. Maybe her expectation, again, nobody knows what's in her head except for her and apparently Burke Nihill, who she's empowered to speak on her behalf. And that's, a completely fair structure for Titans fans to criticize if you feel like it's worth criticizing. I don't know what her level of expectation is. I know that Chad Brinker has it in writing that patience over panic. I have zero faith right now. Why would you? That they will actually stick to patience over panic, because that's not what they've done for 3 straight years. Maybe this is the year that it's different. Until such time as we see that it is, there's no reason to expect anything else. But I think that this quarterback thing becomes a very interesting proposition for Brian Callahan to navigate, because I do think if they are going to, go by these words, patience over panic, then there should be some credence given to, okay, let's just build the best possible team. And we'll get to the quarterback situation, even understanding that the quarterback situation is the most important piece of the puzzle to set this thing over the top. You need a million different things that aren't quarterback to get you in a position to be even in the conversation to set you over the top.
And you need more picks in order to do that. And that in turn means that you need the rookie class of 2025 to bring something to the table next season. But all that said, you also need stable quarterback play for all of that to work and to give you enough confidence that this is the person to lead this franchise into a situation with a long-term solution.
It really depends on what Amy wants more. And the thing that hovers over all of this, whether or not it should, 2027 is still 2 seasons away, 2 full seasons away before the 2027 season starts. They are going to want excitement around the Tennessee Titans before that stadium opens. Does drafting the quarterback in 2025 lend itself to that? Like something to build upon, theoretically? I mean, it would make sense in your head if you draft a young, exciting quarterback and then you build upon that heading into 2027, so that by the time this monstrosity opens in 2027, they actually have a product to sell you other than 5,000 fans in front of a sad Texans crowd wearing Houston Oilers gear. Or does building the best football team now, even though it's not the most exciting part, the quarterback is far more exciting than the defensive end. We understand this. And the defensive end does not necessarily get you that much closer to the Super Bowl until you have the quarterback that makes that defense matter in a substantial way. These are the kind of cost-benefit analyses that they have to be weighing about the roster construction of the team, and also what's most important to the owner. Because it's not just about the roster construction of the team. It's about what's most important to the owner. And they have to kind of balance that, as all organizations have to balance that. But here it's particularly difficult because they have to give people reasons to show up to the new Nissan Stadium for events that are non-Titans related.
So what's most important to the owner?
Couldn't tell you.
Wins.
Yes.
Wins, ultimately, right?
She continues to cite the win total.
Which is the thing that, at the end of the day, no matter what path it takes to get there, most assuredly would buy Brian Callahan more time, right? That would, kind of reduce the heat under him going into the second year. Because, it's not crazy to say that Brian Callahan faces pressure in 2025. It's the NFL. He went 3-14 in year 1. He knows that. He would tell you that, I'm sure. But wins, that's the thing that would buy him more time. The question is, when you talk about patience over panic, Are you talking about patience in regards to the process, regardless of how that affects the win total? Are you talking about patience in the win total specifically? Because every situation is different context. The Bengals notoriously, are patience over panic, almost to a fault, right? To where for years and years, Bengals fans are pining for a change.
Well, the Bengals also have been accused of not actually wanting to win for a period of time.
Of just being content.
Yeah.
There's two extremes. That is just kind of being content and plugging along, which is what the Bengals have done for years. Or that is just, as Mina Kimes would put it, pressing the red button because, okay, this
Erratic
person's not going to get it done. This person's not going to get it done until you find someone that you believe can get it done. And then you have to walk that line of letting that process play out. But Bengals were dreadful in year one of Zach Taylor with Callahan as his OC, two wins, right? Bengals were dreadful in year two of Zach Taylor, 4 wins with Joe Burrow, though, as the rookie. And he got hurt near the end of the year. But that is what bought them time, Joe Burrow, and the promise of Joe Burrow. So what would that be for Brian Callahan, understanding there is no Joe Burrow in this class?
Is it fair to assume, maybe I shouldn't, because we've assumed that things are capable of getting better or capable of not being worse than they actually are, and all the Titans have done is gotten worse at a variety of different spots. If they are no longer tied for the league lead in giveaways, they and the Browns had 34 giveaways last year.
Yep.
A huge part of that is due to the quarterback. If they even remotely regress to the mean, as opposed to being the worst team or tied for the worst team in terms of giveaways, is it fair to expect that this is a football team that could make incremental improvements in the win total because there were specific examples of games that were directly given away by the quarterback?
100%.
So, the baseline is 3-14. Let's say you get to 5 or 6. And that's more wins. And it looks more like a functioning NFL football team, because this year it was not a functioning NFL football team on a variety of different fronts. Offense, defense, special teams, given the day. If they make even that menial improvement and also show that the process is sound, is that enough to buy them patience over panic? Perhaps. Because that would be an improvement in the win total. You would probably, I don't expect them to have a winning record next year. I mean, 9 wins seems like Mount Everest for a team like this at this point in time. They're miles away from being meaningfully competitive, which is why this offseason matters.
Like what the Commanders have done this year is insane.
Insane.
That type of turnaround.
It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
And people again, locally, people have tried to make the comparison to Detroit. There are substantial differences between the Titans and Detroit. So we can talk about this continually, and we can take your phone calls on this coming up next. 615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. So what buys Brian Callahan more time? Let's just assume that he's got a level of patience from ownership, which of course is not a safe assumption because the last 3 years. But we have to, try and flesh out a hypothetical a little bit as if this coach isn't a dead man walking coming into 2025, because I don't think that's fair to him, to be honest with you, no matter whether I think that he should have kept his job or not, and I was in favor of cleaning house. Drafting the quarterback with let's just say the first round pick. Does the conversation change at all? I mean, I think it would if you're able to trade out a number 1 overall and still get a quarterback in the first round. Because there's reason to believe that it might be possible. With the thing that we feel like is the most guaranteed is Cleveland at 2 taking one. Because it's a cost-effective way to offset Deshaun's contract. By the way, did you see? This may be the dumbest thing in sports this week, and I need to read a little more on it, but there's some discussion that Deshaun Watson was doing some level of TikTok dance in the boot that he's supposed to be wearing, and that's how he retore his Achilles.
Oh, how badly I want that to be true. Oh, please.
It's the most you've ever sounded like me.
Please let TikTok be the reason.
Which, by the way, would get the Browns out of some money that they owe to Deshaun Watson if he did something against, outside of the structure of his doctor's orders that re-aggravated or re-injured himself.
So you're talking about more draft capital and a draft that includes a young quarterback like Kyle McCord or a Jackson Dart that you're not necessarily hinging the future of your franchise on, but you're going to work on trying to develop with stability at quarterback with a veteran presence is basically what you're talking about.
Yeah, let's just throw out, I mean, why not? It's the silly season. Who cares? Let's say they decide, what if we Bo Nix this thing? What if there's a guy who nobody else has a first-round grade on, but we think we can get a job done with?
Yeah, who is going to be the Bo Nix of this draft?
I have no idea. Maybe there's not one. There's no guarantee that there is a Bo Nix. Maybe it's chalk and Ward goes 1 and Sanders goes 2 or vice versa.
No, somebody's going to sneak up there. I mean, and maybe not in the first round.
Oh, so you are now a part of this Jackson Dart hive, are you?
No, that's going to be somebody that makes that sort of move, and it could be Jackson Dart. It could be Kyle McCord. Those are really the only 2 names that pop into my head. Have there been any other sort of QB draft crushes that you're seeing start to get floated out there from guys like Trevor Sikkema, right? That have been doing deep dives on this stuff for weeks and weeks.
This is all Trevor does.
Yeah,
well, it's not all Trevor does, obviously.
I'm curious as to what the draft expert is saying in regards to what quarterback could sneak up there the way Bo Nix did, drafted higher than anybody anticipated.
Really, even by people who are comfortable, citing their credentials as draft analysts, Dart and McCord are the 2 names that you hear the most often. And even that is a stretch for any kind of day 1 or maybe even day 2 viability.
I mean, you can't ignore the production from Kyle McCord. The dude literally set an ACC record. I mean, he had an incredible season at Syracuse. And
because you don't hear that about Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel right now, I think, is getting an undrafted grade by most people.
Yeah, which is interesting. McCord has played big-time football. McCord was a 5-star prospect coming out. So
the thing that, and somebody, Kevin Leonard in the chat on YouTube, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch before we get to the phones brings this up. IU legend Curtis Rourke. Rourke is somebody who Cosell at least expressed an interest in. And the reporting around Curtis Rourke was that he played the bulk of the season, not just with that busted thumb. Did you see the picture of his thumb from that Notre Dame playoff game? How awful it is.
Rourke?
Google it if you haven't seen it.
Okay, I did see.
There's a drop back, a picture of his drop back where you can see the thumb on the outside of the football, and it looks horrifying.
I did see the golf ball on Will Howard's hand in the Texas game.
Football turns out not good for your body. But not just that he had the thumb injury, but that he was playing on a partially torn ACL this year.
Yeah.
So if teams are comfortable with the medicals and feel good enough about what the Ohio transfer, then IU quarterback is, perhaps we're having a conversation around Curtis Rourke.
I like this quarterback draft class just because we don't have to play the traits game with any of these guys.
You really don't.
Right? They were all excellent college quarterbacks. All of them. John has tweeted at us and said, I think in Callahan's situation, it better suits him to prove a capable veteran can run his system. If he goes with a rookie and the rookie just isn't the guy, then he's gone.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. I'm inclined to think that the stopgap vet starting, even if you draft the rookie, But the stopgap vet plus the best possible football team is the thing that buys Brian Callahan the most amount of time.
Proof of concept.
615-737-1045. Get in there if you want to. Let's start with Marty.
Good morning, Buck and Lucas. Really enjoy your show.
Thank you.
And the more I think about this, the more agonizing it gets. To me, it's a moot point in drafting a quarterback if he's laying on his backside about 50% of the time. You know, you look at Detroit. I mean, they drafted Taylor Decker on one side, Penei Sewell on the other side. And it makes sense to me to spend the money shoring up the right side of the offensive line first rather than draft a quarterback. I'll hang up and listen for your thoughts.
Thank you for the call, Marty. It's kind of the merry-go-round that they've been on the last couple of years. They've been chasing offensive line since Jack Conklin walked to the Browns in free agency. They've been chasing offensive line since they took Isaiah Wilson in the first round and Dylan Radins in the second round. They feel like they've got some upward mobility now. They feel like they got some promise with Latham, with Skoronski. We will await the Cushenberry timeline. I know he's saying that he expects to be available by end of June, which would lend itself to end of July for training camp, or June, which would allow him to do some voluntary stuff if they medically cleared him to do whatever it is that they're asking them to do during the voluntary periods.
That'd be an impressive recovery.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just kind of pump the brakes on Lloyd Cushenberry and assume that they need center help for the start of the year.
He is.
But I said that about Kirk, by the way.
Right.
And Kirk came back and played right away.
Exactly.
And things faded.
36 years old. And Lloyd Cushenberry is a bit of an athletic freak, so I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, let's just keep it within the bounds of it normally takes a year, and the guy tore his Achilles on, mid-November, mid to late November. November 20th, I think, is when they put him on injured reserve. So it's a completely fair point by Marty. What tackle help is available? What right tackle help is available to you? And again, there's nothing to stop them, really, because they I think have to consider all options. And an option here is if a left tackle is available to you in the draft process that you feel is sufficient enough to start at left tackle and move J.C. Latham to right, I don't think that's a bad option. I think that J.C. Latham has experience on both sides of the line. Yes, ideally, you would like to continue for him to get reps at one specific spot, but there's nothing that would absolutely, like, it's not like Skoronski, right, where multiple NFL coaching staffs, multiple NFL line coaches are telling you, no, this player is a guard. He's not a tackle. That's not what they're saying about Latham. What they're saying about Latham is, yeah, some of the technical stuff he could afford to clean up, but this guy is a tackle. He can play. As far as the offensive line efficiency and where they were last year versus a year ago, do you think, the Titans' offensive line group was better or worse than it was in 2023?
I'd have to look at the advanced numbers. My first inclination is to say better, because I do think they got better as the season went on. They had competent left tackle play, and I know Latham hit his rookie wall, but they had the most competent left tackle play they have had since before Taylor Lewan went down. Dylan Radins had his best year as a Titan, without question. Peter Skoronski got better as the year went on.
I don't think I'd bring Radins back, though.
He's a free agent. Yeah, but just to the point of the 2024 season, my first instinct is
Give
to
me
say
Trey
yes.
Smith over Dylan Radins. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that's an option.
And Trey is a free agent.
If that's an option.
But yes, I think they improved as the year went on. And look, the sack numbers went down too. Maybe a lot of that was Mason Rudolph as well, who is just, more veteran presence. He knows how to avoid those moments a little more than Will Levis. But I do think they improved as the year went on.
So, in 2024, they were the fifth worst pass blocking group, according to, again, it's one metric. Pro Football Focus has a metric where they determine the offensive line's pass blocking efficiency. In 2023, the Titans were the the worst pass blocking efficiency group. 74.5 is the numeric value assigned to their level of pass blocking efficiency last year. In 2024, it did improve. It went from 74.5 to what you're looking at now, or what you most recently looked at, which is a rating of 81.8. It's still fifth worst in the league. It ties them with the Giants, who are a hideous offensive line group. But we understand the struggles on the right side. We understand Latham and the variance in his performance. From a pressure standpoint, the Tennessee Titans offensive line allowed 192. Again, all of these numbers according to Pro Football Focus. The Titans staff may have these numbers graded out differently. 192 quarterback pressures allowed versus what they allowed last year, which was 245. Okay? It's a pretty significant jump. You can even look at sack totals, where Tennessee allowed the most sacks according to Pro Football Focus last year, 49. In 2024, that number, while it was still high, dipped to 32.
And how much better would you say the personnel was on the offensive line in 2024 versus 2023?
Significantly, because Cushenberry was an upgrade no matter what. Brunskill, honestly, was an upgrade over Brewer.
Latham was an upgrade, obviously, at left tackle.
Latham an upgrade.
Over Dillon.
Skoronski got better, even though, it took him a while, but he got better. He made appreciable improvements. Is it good enough for him to be the 11th overall pick? No. But you're just looking for progress at this point. Can you work with these guys? And you can work with center to left pretty much. Right side, I think you need to blow up, right? I'm good with moving on from Dylan Radins. He's a nice man. He had the best year that he's had, but it's not been good enough as a second-round pick. And they were very diplomatic about the way that they talked about right tackle in Brian Callahan's end-of-season press conference, but he's saying that you're definitely going to have a different right tackle there. You're probably going to have several different right tackles there. So that's kind of the way to look at it. So I completely accept Marty's thoughts on does it matter until you get the line right. To an extent, no, but they are improving. They have less work to do than they did at the outset last year, right? Because they got Latham and they got Cushenberry. So now the degree of difficulty in continuing to improve upon the foundation of what you've got allows you to potentially address not just one or the other, but you could do both. Let's go to John up next.
Hey guys. Let me throw this scenario out there for you. First of all, we need Dallas to hire Deion. They will be itching to get that number 1 pick. We take their number 12 pick. They take our number 1. We also take Dak off their hands. But also, like kind of we did with Tannehill and Miami, we get Jerry to pay, say, $25 million of his $60 million salary. And that's our bridge quarterback. And we're also able to take Jerry for maybe their first rounder next year, couple of seconds or a third, something like that. But the whole key is for them to hire Deion so they can take Shador with their number 1 pick. What do you think?
Thanks, John. We're gonna cover that at noon today, specifically with the Deion stuff, because there is reported interest, mutual interest between the Cowboys and Deion Sanders, and obviously that would have an impact on what Deion has said that he wants to do, which is coach his sons, which is why he would be in the NFL. So we'll cover that ground here in about 30 minutes. How about Omar next?
Hey, how you doing, Buck? Good morning, y'all.
Good. Thanks for the call.
All right. I want to add on because I'm gonna go with the flow of the show. I had a different thing I was going to say, but I want to add on to what Marty was saying earlier, and I'm gonna choose patience over panic. And the reason being is because I believe we'll all be sitting here feeling all dandy if we hire that general manager for the Chiefs, and he brings in. Let's say he brings in, I think Nick Bolton is going to be in free agency. I read something in an article about that. Also, Trey Smith, right guard, is going to be in free agency. He brings him in. And then also Justin Reed to pair with our cornerback that, they have chemistry together that we got last year all together. We get T. Higgins. And then we just keep our number 1 draft pick instead of going into quarterback purgatory and choose somebody, whether if it's Cam or Shador. And then we work with them, and then we get Browning from Cincinnati, who Callahan has some history with, making him look sufficient, and just let them play a quarterback battle and see, who gets the number one position.
Thanks for the call, Armar. That's 60 seconds on the clock. So you want the Chiefs. You want the Chiefs roster is what you're telling me, because you already got the Chiefs' best corner, and the Chiefs didn't miss him this year, L'Jarius Sneed. Now, that's obviously a very, very singular circumstance that came with a lot of different things that you were not expecting, and the trade made plenty of sense at the time. Mike Borgonzi is the person that he's referencing here. That's the assistant general manager of the Chiefs that is in not only the initial virtual round of interviews, but has made it to the second round of interviews with the Tennessee Titans, which are ongoing today and throughout the course of the week. He is also, by the way, Borgonzi, the front runner for the Jets job. So there's nothing to say that a person with options. Again, it's going to be a good test for how good a job are the Titans actually. Would you agree? Somebody with options like Mike Borgonzi, who is going to be a front runner for multiple jobs, maybe not the Raiders, it sounds like, but certainly for the Jets. Does he, beyond just taking an interview and going through the interview process, is this a more valuable job than having full control of the Jets?
So they will talk to him. They'll have that second interview with him on Wednesday, according to Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. There is a relationship there with he and Chad Brinker. They have worked together in the past. So, yeah, this will be an interesting test of that. Speaking of relationships with Brinker, the Titans are also bringing back John Eric Sullivan, the Packers VP of Player Personnel, for a second-round interview. He is also going to interview with the Raiders, and he is interviewing with the Jets today for their vacant GM spot. The three names that Rappaport pointed out that the Titans are bringing back for a second round are Borgonzi, John Eric Sullivan. He also pointed out John Spytek, the Bucs assistant GM.
Yeah, there's more. Did you say three?
Rappaport put out a tweet where he said, there will be several others, but he pointed out the headliners, which are Mike Borgonzi, Bucs assistant GM John Spytek, Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham. We know John Eric Sullivan also will conduct a second interview with the Titans. I have not seen anything about Reggie McKenzie.
He's not in the second round of interviews. Okay. I can't remember the Colts guy, the Colts assistant GM. He is in the second round of interviews. The Browns VP of Player Personnel or assistant general manager is not in the second round of interviews. There's a couple of those names that got left off. Also, Matt Berry from the Seahawks, not in the second round of interviews.
John Spytek, did you know that he inherited the Spytek company? He is the heir to Spytek, GPS tracking devices. You didn't know that? Oh, he's taking off his headphones. Oh, wow. He doesn't even want to play along. He's walking out of the studio. Oh, what a big baby.
Is this our show now?
What a baby. We do one bit with him. Robert tries this on prime time last night. We try to carry it over, and Buck can't take the heat. He walks out. He won't even do the bit. John Spytek is not inheriting the Spytek company, for those who don't know. Go to break.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. 615-737-1045. We can take more of your phone calls in just a minute. What's the best head coaching job right now in the NFL? Because Dallas came open yesterday, officially, right? Mike McCarthy's contract has been expired for some time. The reporting around that is that they never engaged in contract extension negotiations, and so now Mike McCarthy, a free agent. Dallas doesn't technically fire anybody, but the Dallas job is now open. It's one of 6.
Saints, Jets, Cowboys, Bears, Jags, Raiders are open because the Patriots job has been filled. So what do you think prospective candidates, and this is probably a flawed question. It totally would depend person to person, I imagine. But what would you prefer? Blank slate, clean canvas, or quarterback in place? Trevor Lawrence, Drake May.
Well, I think that the quarterback thing here is the thing that saves or loses the most amount of jobs, right? You would agree? I mean, look at the Bears. How many coaches have the Bears fired in recent history because they've drafted how many franchise-type quarterbacks with first-round draft picks?
A lot.
So the quarterback thing is of consequence here.
Bears have the number 10 pick. Of those jobs I just listed,
it's not a clean slate.
No, the Jags have the highest draft pick. They have the number 5 pick, and they do have a quarterback.
But when you take over a job that has a quarterback in place, you're expected to make that quarterback better.
Yes.
Which is my contention with Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, I get where it makes sense. I also get where it doesn't make sense, because Mike is not going to be capable of furthering the development of the quarterback position the way that, for example, the Titans brought Brian Callahan in to do. Now, that didn't happen, and the quarterback development cratered as opposed to thriving or improving. And I know there are some places that they'll cite, well, he does this better and that better, talking about Will Levis specifically, but he got worse. So you run that risk, right? Known commodity that people have some level of expectation for. The most dangerous thing in the world is potential for the quarterback. Or at least the most dangerous thing for a head coaching candidate is a quarterback with potential. Because if you don't get that potential to skill, then you're in trouble. Then you're the guy that didn't improve him.
The Bears...
I think I would prefer clean slate if you're asking me, but I understand that there are a certain number of things that are still on the table here.
The Bears have one of the better quarterback prospects of the last few years, like Caleb Williams, highest regarded QB prospect since Trevor Lawrence. Is that fair?
Yeah.
I think so.
I would say.
Right? Still on his rookie deal after a good rookie season. Let's not get it twisted. If Jaden Daniels did not exist, I think Caleb Williams would be getting more praise for his rookie season. He's a 4,000-yard passer. How many interceptions do you think he threw this year?
Ooh, that's a good question. Did he throw double digit?
He threw 6.
Is that it?
And I'm sorry, not a 4,000-yard passer. 3,541 yards.
I was going to say, if this man had a 4,000-yard passing season winning 26 years of Titans football, they'd never had one.
I believe the Bears also have never had a 4,000-yard passer.
That's got to be true, because I think Cutler is still at the very, very top of their passing records.
Yeah, so 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. There are better quarterbacks in the NFL that had a lot worse rookie year as a baseline.
How many in a row did they lose, though?
How many in a row? Sure.
It ended up being 10.
It was a strong start. They were 4-2.
They beat the Packers at the end. So
10 straight losses.
Yeah, my perspective is I'd rather get a clean slate. I'd rather, have as little baggage attached to me coming in as humanly possible. And whether you consider Caleb Williams or Trevor Lawrence, don't they come with a degree of baggage? Both of them. Different extents. Trevor Lawrence already paid.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence comes with financial baggage.
Sure. But that's baggage. These quarterbacks have baggage. Potential can also be baggage. If you don't maximize the potential and you get in there all of a sudden and you're Brian Callahan and the quarterback's got potential, but you don't make it work.
Caleb Williams, I think, showed promise and improvement in his rookie year. He was a much better quarterback in week 15 than he was week 1 against the Titans. That's for sure. And even in week 1 against the Titans, he didn't lose them the game. He didn't do anything to win it, but he did not have these collapsing moments where you see with rookie quarterbacks and say, oh, he's just not ready, right? He is not a top-tier NFL starter, no. But, again, there are much better quarterbacks that had a much worse baseline in their rookie year than what Caleb Williams did in Chicago. But there is the context of Ryan Poles and the situation you're walking into. The clean slate jobs that are open right now are the
Raiders.
Jets. Raiders, Jets, yeah. No quarterback, GM that hasn't been hired.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jets and Raiders. I mean, that's it. That's it.
So it's a conversation between the Jets and the Raiders to me, and I would take the Raiders.
Saints are retaining their GM. They don't have a quarterback. Cowboys.
Saints, honestly, I know that they have some things. Like, it's not like they're a wasteland or anything like that, but the Saints are in some kind of purgatory that I would want no part of.
Yeah.
Respectfully to Saints fans. They deserve better. Doesn't seem like they're going to get it.
But those are the two blank slate jobs here.
It's not the Jets. The Jets. I mean, even because Woody Johnson has now come out publicly and refuted Diana, and who else was on the reporting on that? Mike Silver of The Athletic, and then their Jets reporter, Rosenblatt, I think is his last name. Forgive me, I don't remember exactly. But they had that big expose on Woody Johnson, the Jets, what all a bleep show it's been under him, and he's since come out and refuted that and called people bitter and, upset, and his kids don't have any actual power in the organization, even though they may have influence in the organization.
Having
no
to come
thank you
out
on the Jets. No, thank you.
Having to come out and make a statement.
No, my 16-year-old does not have any personnel control.
My teenage son does not have any influence in what we do. Man, that is tough. So
how old is Woody Johnson that he has 16-year-old sons? He looks a lot older, but that's
the Raiders.
I didn't realize. I saw Bob Kraft's is that his girlfriend on the stage with all them?
I don't know.
Very young.
The Raiders are the blank slate job with the highest draft pick. So they have the number 6 pick. There's talent in Vegas. Still have to hire a GM, and they will be in the market for a quarterback. So are you going to conclude that the Raiders are the best open job?
Yeah. Because if Tom Brady believes in me, I feel like I'm safe. And I feel like I'm going to get that patience. And Brady has huge influence in that organization.
Yeah, he does.
They have, I like their defense. I like the pieces and parts that they have. What did they get back in the Devontae Adams trade? What was the compensation on that? I don't remember that off the top of my head. They didn't get back a first for Devontae Adams. Surely not.
They got back a.
I'm sure
it was a haul. That was Joe Douglas on the way out trying to save his job.
Yeah,
so
no, I'm sure they got picks, but I would be shocked if they got back a first.
They traded him to the Jets in exchange for a 2025 conditional draft selection that if Adams is a first or second team All-Pro in 2024, which
I don't think he was.
Well, we don't have the.
Yeah, that's out.
We have the All-Pro?
Yeah, came out last week.
Okay, so
Tuesday.
He was not. Or active for the AFC Championship game or Super Bowl. Also definitely not.
Yep.
It would be a second rounder. So it'll be a third because those conditions were not met.
Okay. You got some picks. You don't have quarterback baggage. You get a clean slate.
You got one pick, a third rounder.
No, you have picks, plural.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You have capital, yeah.
You have capital. You have Brock Bowers, who's an exciting young weapon. They don't really have running backs that I would be super excited about. I think they look a bit foolish for not paying Josh Jacobs, but that's, retrospect.
And you've got...
I feel good. I feel okay about the Raiders gig.
You've got ways to move up.
The only thing that would limit me with the Raiders gig is, does Mark Davis have the money?
Yeah, Tom Brady.
If I want to pay free agents, if I'm going to retool this thing the way that it needs to be done, do you have the cash on hand in escrow to pay these, or am I going to have to trade away Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper?
Yeah, the Brady factor is real there. To have Tom Brady having influence there and it not just be, do you want to go work for Mark Davis?
It's not Mark Davis. It's about, can you work with Tom Brady? Mark Davis matters.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That has huge influence. Like, if Brady wasn't in the picture, it would probably change the tenor of this job. Yeah,
but he is. He's not your average minority owner of an NFL team. Tom Brady has great influence there, which is why I think it's curious that the reporting on the Raiders is that they have no interest in Deion Sanders. 615-737-1045. The number. Frank is next.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I don't think Callahan has a chance to save his job just because he's as much of a head coach as a cleaning lady as an environmental engineer. If you look at his why he got hired was because of those three marquee names, Manning, Stafford, and Burrow. He clearly had zero hand in the development of Manning or Stafford at the points in their career they were. And the one he did have some hand in the development of is Burrow. If you take out his rookie year, he got significantly worse statistically each year, and then the year after he leaves, he has a career year. And the fact that he also didn't call plays. So just maybe some feedback on that, but That's where I stand with Callahan. He doesn't have a snowball's chance.
I mean, he may not. But, like, we can't operate that way while he's the coach.
Yeah, we don't have an answer on Callahan
like,
that way.
When we get to the season, I don't know. I think we are getting more information about Brian Callahan. So far, the information has not been overwhelming. I mean, he hadn't covered himself in glory in his first year, right?
Look, Brian Callahan. Remember when Will Levis said, I go as far as he goes? He goes, that was true.
And I said, no.
But it was true for the 2024 season. The Titans were going to go as far as Will Levis was going to go.
Sure.
Will Levis didn't go
that we
far.
said about the Titans are going to go as far as Ryan Tannehill takes them the year prior.
And there's a lot of context around the Burrow stuff, the injuries he was dealing with, right? He was finally healthy this year, and he took off. And what Brian Callahan did with Jake Browning last year was, to me, as significant a part of the evaluation as the success story of Joe Burrow.
Let me support you on that point, because I think the best he gets cited for his resume, right? It's Manning, Carr, and I don't remember if Carr or Stafford came first, but Manning, Carr, Stafford, Burrow. That's the resume of Brian Callahan as an NFL coach, quarterback coach, offensive coordinator, but a coach. I don't think that you should cite those things. Yeah, it's an easy thing to sell to a fan base. Look at this guy. He worked with Peyton Manning, Joe Burrow, and all these other guys. He's great. Well, then he very much wasn't when he didn't have those guys. And he's still calling an offense for Joe Burrow without Joe Burrow. I think the best case for Brian Callahan and his quarterback acumen is Jake Browning.
Yeah.
Don't give me the guys who you know to be the top. I mean, even Carr, right? Carr is a top 10 percentile quarterback across his career.
He's had a good career.
As a former second-round pick. It's kind of like...
As a second-rounder at Fresno State, he's had a good career.
Right? So, people... It's like Tannehill for people. Well, he was a first-round pick. He should be so much better. He had a 12 to... I mean, how long? Tannehill was in the league for 12 years. That's a good career for a first-round pick.
Yeah, it is.
That's better than most. So...
Went to an AFC championship.
Don't cite to me the guys that you know to be great independent of their coaches. Cite to me the guys who he's done the most possible with out of significantly less. Jake Browning is a far better mark, even though it sounds counterintuitive, far better mark on Brian Callahan's resume than any of the other four.
I think
because the other four can do it without him.
I think he's a smart guy who can keep a locker room together and knows what good quarterback play looks like. But if the results aren't there, then we understand how all of this works. But I don't think we can have that final answer on Brian Callahan.
Disagree on keeping the locker room together when he is actively saying in his postseason press conference that he struggled balancing the job of offensive play caller with getting to know the defensive guys.
Well, sure. He said he wants to be more involved, but I don't think he lost this team at any point this year.
I don't think he did anything to actively divide them, but I also don't think that you should give him credit for keeping them together when he doesn't really have that as good of a relationship with the defensive guys.
But he said he wants to be more involved in the defense moving forward,
He can get better. My point is, let's not give him more credit than he deserves. 615-737-1045, the number. The Cowboys have contacted Deion. How could it affect the Titans? We'll talk about it next.
It is 12:02. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Lucas Panzica. Super Wildcard Weekend is officially over after the LA Rams routed the Minnesota Vikings 27-9 in Arizona on Monday night, earning themselves a trip to Philadelphia in the divisional round next Sunday. Meanwhile, the Titans' search for a new GM continues as they bring back multiple candidates for a second round of interviews. According to Ian Rappaport, those include Chiefs assistant GM Mike Borgonzi, Bucs assistant GM John Spytek, and Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham. The Nashville Predators homestand continues tonight. They host the Vegas Golden Knights at Bridgestone Arena. Puck drop is set for 7 p.m. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome back to the show. We're fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. So the Titans obviously have the number one overall pick. You knew this. But what potential external factors could impact their mobility in this draft? The priority for the Tennessee Titans this offseason is what? I would first start, if it was me, with a veteran quarterback.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you're drafting the quarterback or not. Veteran quarterback, top of the list of all the things that you need. Free agency, of course, comes before the draft, so that's the place that you start. Veteran quarterback help. Then, understanding that you have more needs in free agency and there will be more players and positions available in free agency. Skipping ahead, though, to the draft pick, shop the pick. See what's out there, see what's available, see what's your best opportunity to maximize the amount of draft capital that you have, because 8 picks is fine, but it's not enough for a roster that has a multitude of needs. Veteran quarterback first, shopping the pick second. Things that could impact your ability to shop the pick. May I introduce to you, yet again, the storyline of Deion Sanders. How many Deion-related stories do you think we're going to talk about before the draft takes place?
So that's 2 jobs that he has popped up in terms of having interest in the NFL. The Raiders seem pretty one-sided that Deion had the interest. Raiders don't seem to. This one, though, I don't know. I don't know how much stock I'm putting in what you're about to say.
Okay. Well, I mean, the stock is that Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders have talked about the Cowboys job and that there's mutual interest. In fact, Jackson, can I hear from Adam Schefter of ESPN last night on their NFL Countdown show? I believe this was at halftime between the Vikings and the Rams.
The gigantic story of the day, Dallas has an opening in head coach. Thought it was interesting. Troy said maybe not coveted. We get that it's still Dallas and there's going to be interest. Where are they looking?
Well, it is the Cowboys, and they have spoken with, amongst other candidates, Deion Sanders. There is a mutual interest there. And I go back to about a year and a half ago when I had a former general manager say to me, watch Deion Sanders. There's a real possibility he may be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, there is mutual interest. We'll see if that amps up. But the two sides have talked. They have touched base. And we'll see if it goes anywhere. Meanwhile, Mike McCarthy is scheduled to interview this week with the Chicago Bears at some point. They can't schedule it yet due to rules, but he can talk to them as soon as Wednesday, and he will be talking with the Bears.
I think the interesting point that was made on Countdown was that 4-day window they missed, right, to make this decision. That really puts them behind other candidates that have interviewed with other teams, and now they're playing catch-up, aren't they?
Well, maybe. If Deion Sanders is the guy that they wanted all along, it doesn't matter that they haven't spoken to Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson or Matt Nagy or Steve Spagnuolo or the coordinators they can't. But clearly, Deion Sanders is somebody that Jerry Jones knows. There's great respect and admiration between the two men, and we'll see if those talks materialize into anything further.
Okay, so you're not putting much stock into it?
Not yet.
Why?
There is this sort of aura around Jerry Jones as an erratic,
sort of
flashy owner, right? That does things for
what else does
clicks, for lack of a better word, for buzz.
You mean like tours, regular tours, daily tours through the team facility, even at the protesting of players?
But In reality, though, look at the coaches Jerry Jones has hired. Mike McCarthy, Jason Garrett. Are these, the flashiest, sexiest names that are out there in the coaching business? Like Mike McCarthy had a very good resume.
He had a resume.
Super Bowl
He's
champion.
a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah,
it's
took some time
definitely
off.
more impressive than Jason Garrett.
As we've talked about, Jerry Jones is notoriously patient with his coaches. I mean, we were surprised at this outcome, that they couldn't come to an agreement with Mike McCarthy and they let him go. They kept Jason Garrett for almost a decade after promoting him. Wasn't he an in-house promotion? No, he was an in-house promotion as the assistant head coach and offensive coordinator, and he was an assistant in Dallas for 3 years before he got the job, first as an interim, then as a head coach. So, I think there's that assumption about Jerry Jones that I don't think is necessarily rooted in fact.
He replaced Wade Phillips. Is that right?
I believe so. And B, Deion Sanders has a buyout.
Yeah.
$8 million. Mm-hmm. Jerry, who notoriously does not fire coaches, who went about this with Mike McCarthy in a way that he doesn't have to pay McCarthy a cent. They can just part ways and say goodbye. Mike McCarthy is now a coaching free agent.
What a novel concept that would be, to just move on from coaches instead of paying them into multiple years.
Jerry doesn't buy out coaches, so I'm not saying he doesn't have the money to buy out Deion. I'm just saying it would be uncharacteristic, and all we've seen so far are just conversations. Like the Bears are interested in talking to Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame head coach. It doesn't mean the Bears are going to hire Marcus Freeman. Sure. I get the history. Like, I totally get it, and I get why we talk about it. But I'm not going to put stock in it until this goes another step, so to speak.
Completely reasonable. The next step would be an interview, and no formal interview has been scheduled.
Right, exactly.
So that is completely fair criticism by you. But the only reason that it doesn't make sense to me is because of, the aura that you said Jerry carries. And that we know Jerry Jones has. Is Jerry comfortable playing second fiddle to a coach? Because Jimmy Johnson, that whole thing ended very poorly because Jerry was viewed as second fiddle to the coach. And Deion is a much bigger figure than is Jimmy Johnson for different reasons. Both obviously have their place in NFL history and football lore and legend, and they both accomplished a great deal in their respective roles. But there is no question that Deion Sanders becomes the biggest attraction in Dallas outside of the star, and that has been forever Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is the attraction. Like, as an attraction, not as in an attractive thing about the Cowboys, but no, he's the circus. Jerry likes the circus. He's the ringleader.
Yeah.
Ringmaster, whatever they call it.
Immediately we see graphics, right? FanDuel Sportsbook. Imagine Deion Sanders becomes the Cowboys coach, trades Dak to the Titans for the number 1 overall pick.
Please God, no.
And drafts Shedeur Sanders. I love this scenario. Titans get Dak. Cowboys get the number 1 pick, the 4th round pick.
Where are you getting this from? Make sure people know that this is not a credible.
I said it's from FanDuel. Okay. Yeah, it's a hypothetical graphic.
Okay.
So FanDuel has this hypothetical trade scenario of the Titans sending 3 picks to the Cowboys. Number 1, their 4th round pick, and next year's 3rd round pick in exchange for just Dak. Right? So that would be a crazy move, right? That'd be a crazy move to go all the way from 12 to 1.
Yeah.
No, and exchanging your franchise quarterback for Shedeur.
You would need more than what is in that offer for me to be comfortable taking Dak Prescott, because the contract is hideous and Jerry's not paying that money.
But just the concept of moving that far up the draft for Shedeur because your coach wants to coach his son at quarterback, it just doesn't really, like, why do
it would take a lot to get there, but it does not, it should not be ruled out for this reason and this reason alone. For Deion's side of thing. Maybe Jerry has some hesitancy about it, but Jerry's at least willing to entertain the conversation, because what does it hurt right now to have Jerry Jones and Deion Sanders in the same conversation? It's good for buzz. It's good for business. It's good for Jerry.
Of course.
So on that note, though, Deion Sanders famously, and obviously I don't know Deion Sanders personally, but everybody that you talk to, former players who have been around Deion in some capacity, people who have been around Deion, organizations who have been around Deion, say that he prioritizes the ability to earn money very, very highly. Where is there a more lucrative opportunity than the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys when you're already Coach Prime, doing Allstate commercials, doing, what is he doing? Is he doing the California almonds commercials? He's got a bunch of different commercials out there.
Oh, I'm not disputing that Deion
You could turn
wants
that
it
up to 10.
Oh, I'm not disputing that.
To 10. Jerry, it's a cost-benefit analysis, all right? Jerry wants that because it's good for business. How badly does he want that versus the kind of hurdles that you have, I think, done well to articulate, which is that he would have to buy him out of his Colorado contract, $8 million, and that's a drop in the bucket to the Dallas Cowboys. But Jerry doesn't do that. You would also then have to, if you were doing, let's just run, God help us, let's run with this FanDuel hypothetical of a Dak Prescott trade to the Titans with other things for the number 1 overall pick. The Titans cannot take on the bulk of that contract. Maybe it's not to the degree of, I don't remember off the top of my head how much Miami was paying Tannehill's salary, but the Dak Prescott contract is a lot bigger. There's not an out on that until 2027, which is interesting only on the Titans timeline for this one reason. What happens in 2027?
Yeah.
New stadium opens.
Big old building opens up over there.
Big old building? What did you just say?
Big old building.
Okay, careful. But it does fall in line. It's an easy thing to kind of plug into the Titans timeline of, stopgap quarterback. That is not terrible. Dak's not bad. He's not great.
You would take Dak Prescott level
over the
quarterback play over what you've had the last couple of years.
But I would not take Dak Prescott behind this offensive line situation, which is still very much a question because once Dallas's offensive line situation started to deteriorate, shocking to nobody, so did Dak. So it's interesting.
If Dak were a free agent, we could talk about this coming up next. How high would he be on that list of free agent quarterbacks?
I like that conversation. We'll discuss it. We'll take your phone calls. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Will I have enough money when I retire? When should I start to draw from Social Security? If these questions keep you up at night, let me introduce you to a team that you know by now, but I'm here to remind you that's there to keep you on the right track and to continue to guide you through it. That's Trajan Wealth, Trajan Wealth. Trajan Wealth is not just any financial firm. They're your partners in securing your financial future. And they're more than just a fiduciary firm. They're a family-owned, veteran-led team that puts your needs first. Let their decades of experience specializing in retirement planning and wealth management work for you. This is what Trajan Wealth has done over the course of their company's history and will continue to do for you here in Middle Tennessee. Trajan Wealth offers free consultations to help you develop your plan and your peace of mind. So call them today at 615-270-5000. That's 615-270-5000 or visit them online at TrajanWealth.com.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, so we're going to dive into the list of available quarterbacks. And Lucas said that we would even consider Dak Prescott, or kind of feel out where Dak Prescott might be ranked in the midst of this list. Before we do that, Lucas, let's get to some phone calls. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Start with Sasquatch.
Hey, what's up, Matt? What's up, Lucas? Future Willis of the Tennessee Titans. Let's talk about let's just play fantasy land. What if they trade the number one pick to Deion and Jerry Jones, and we get back Prescott and their number 12 pick and make a few first round picks, and then all right, we got a quarterback, and then we move on back. What if the Raiders would like to trade, since both quarterbacks will be off the board by then? We trade back up. Trade those two picks back up, pick at number 6, we pick Will Campbell. Yeah, we've got two birds stoned at once. Yeah, I said it that way on purpose.
Two birds stoned at once. Thank you. Sasquatch, who sounds like he's calling from the woods.
Yeah, he sounds like he's calling from the trailer park from the show Trailer Park Boys, which is where the phrase two birds stoned at once comes from.
Did you get all that?
I got almost none of it.
Respectfully, we need that sounded like the Charlie Brown teacher voice. Where it's just wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, we appreciate the call, though.
Yeah, no, we try again. Better phone line.
I love the Trailer Park Boys reference. It's the only thing I caught on that phone call.
Scott is next.
I was hoping that was not just me. It sounded like he was calling on a toaster.
Nope, us too.
All right, 2 points. So, Callahan, when he took the job and was interviewing, throughout the process, I think what we don't talk about a lot is he was under the premise that Will Levis was going to be his quarterback. I think the conversation a lot this offseason is going to be, well, it's not his quarterback. He walked into that situation, but he interviewed and knew throughout the whole process that this is the guy. Do you want the job or not? And I don't think he should be absolved from, getting off scot-free from that situation.
Who's absolving him?
As far as our position, as a fan, I think trading out is the best scenario, but one of these blockbuster trades with the Dallas or someone out of the top 10, I think is probably a little too rich for that side. I think you got Cleveland and the Giants sitting right behind you, where as we get closer, they'll want to just secure and make sure they get their guy, and I think it's a best-case scenario for us. Stay in the top 5, get that elite talent, and, get some picks in return. So I'll hang up, Lewis.
Yeah, nobody's letting Brian Callahan off the hook. In fact, I think, I've been fairly critical of him specifically and the job that he was tasked with coming in here to do versus the job that he failed to do.
Fair criticisms because Levis did not improve, right? But also I have a hard time criticizing Callahan for taking the job because of Will Levis and using that as if you liked Will Levis. Look, this was the job clearly he felt the closest to getting. He was not Ben Johnson in last year's cycle where he knew he would have his pick. So I have a really hard time criticizing him for praising Will Levis and talking about Levis as a big reason for taking the job.
No, but your words matter.
That's fair.
People will
words do matter.
People will hold your word. God knows in this business, people will hold your words over you if you fail to do the job. And he failed to do the job. Nobody is absolving Brian Callahan. Again, I was in favor of clearing house. I don't think that he did a good enough job. Nobody did a good enough job. They're 3-14. It was a disaster. Now, the other part of this is the trading up, trading back. Or I guess you're not trading up. You got the number 1 overall pick. Trading back. It's a very easy thing to say, well, they should trade back. As a fan, that's my perspective. Sure. I am also in favor of considering all potential options that would get you the most amount of draft capital, the most amount of bites at the apple to fix this roster. It is in disrepair. Somebody has to be willing to trade up with you. Corey Davis is the best example I have of this. The Titans had the number 5 overall pick. They needed a wide receiver. They did not want to take Corey Davis at 5. They tried to shop the pick. Nobody wanted to come up. Now, this is different. There are teams with quarterback needs. You had Marcus Mariota at the time. You weren't in the quarterback market.
It was not a good wide receiver draft.
No, it was Corey, Mike Williams, and then who was the Bengals guy?
Justin Ross.
Justin Ross or John Ross?
John Ross? Was it John Ross?
I think it's John Ross. Either way, he didn't matter.
Justin Ross is the Chiefs receiver, the current Chiefs receiver. Yeah, you're right. It's John Ross.
John Ross at the time. They had the they had the number 5 overall pick. Was Julio Jones the number 5 pick in his respective draft? If you draft a wide receiver, number 5, in the top 5, you want that guy to be Julio Jones. Corey Davis wasn't.
He was 6. Julio was 6 in the 6th pick in the 2011 draft.
Yeah. So they wanted out. They would have taken Corey Davis at a later pick. I don't know if they would have taken Mike Williams or not. They needed receiver help. They ended up taking that year Corey and then Taywan Taylor in the 3rd. They couldn't get out of 5. They had to take the receiver. They took Corey Davis. So this is a particularly interesting draft from that standpoint. They have number 1. There's nothing definitive that's going to make them pick at number 1, but who's going to be willing to come up for the cost? Just something that you have to keep in mind. All right, you got this list?
Yeah. How many QB-needy teams in the NFL this offseason, as in teams that are on the quarterback market or in the quarterback market?
Let me go through them. Because I'm just going division by division here. Do the Dolphins need a quarterback?
I don't think the Dolphins are in the quarterback market.
Okay,
for a starter. I'm talking about for a starter.
Yeah, I also am talking about for a starter.
I've come up with 7, and I'm thinking about extending it to 8, but you tell me.
So I've got Jets, Giants, Steelers, Titans, Colts,
That's the one that I have a question about.
Saints, Falcons, I guess not.
No.
Raiders, and what are they going to do with Geno? Geno might get cut.
He's under contract for 2025, but
it's a big figure though.
It is, and look, but I'm not putting the Seahawks on this list until we know they're moving on from Geno.
That's fine.
Did you say the Browns?
I didn't say the Browns.
The Browns. So
obviously.
that's 7. The Colts would make it 8. The Colts are in a similar situation as the Titans with Will Levis, right? The only difference is obviously they have a 5th-year option with a first-round pick in Anthony Richardson. Do the Colts go all in on Anthony Richardson in 2025?
Sounds like they're going to.
They brought in a veteran backup, Joe Flacco, last year that they could put in there when Richardson struggled. That did not help. So will the Colts be in the market for a starting quarterback? I don't think there's any indication that they will.
You have to be in the market for a quarterback that can start.
Yes, and the Steelers, both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are free agents, right?
Yeah.
So there are teams that either have a quarterback at the end of his deal,
all right,
or have a.
Let's play it out with 7.
Yeah, we'll just say 7. We'll put the Colts over to the side for now. We'll see if they
put the
end
Colts
up
anywhere but in my line of vision. I'm sick of the Colts.
So 7 teams that we know to be in the market for a starting quarterback this offseason. 2 first-round quarterbacks as of right now, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, that will go to 2 of these teams.
And so Cleveland sitting at 2.
That would take, stands to reason that would take 2 off the list, leaving 5. And then you look at trade scenarios and free agency. And the free agent quarterbacks available, as we know, at the top of that list include Sam Darnold, Justin Fields, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, if he decides to continue playing.
Not a free agent yet.
Not yet. Well, his contract is up this year, right? Mm-mm. Is he under contract for next year?
Mm-hmm.
Why
He's a cut candidate.
Okay. Gotcha.
He's not a free agent. But, so here's the list of free agent quarterbacks that I have, courtesy of SpotTrack.com. Darnold, Wilson, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, Jameis, Justin Fields, Mariota, Rudolph, Dalton, Brissett. That's like the top 10 of the free agent quarterbacks as it stands right now. Before there are cap casualties, i.e. Aaron Rodgers.
Did you say Fields?
I did say Fields.
Okay. Then you get into the Trey Lances and Zach Wilsons and Marcus Mariota.
Mariota's on my list.
And yeah, so
4 touchdowns this year, 44 attempts, 4 touchdowns. Let's ride, Marcus.
Finished the season with a strong performance. Kirk Cousins could enter this list.
Yeah.
If the Falcons do decide to cut him.
But why would you cut him? Why would you I know the salary is awful.
Keep him as a backup?
Why not?
On that contract? You could do worse.
you know?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
It makes 0 sense. Of all the different scenarios about Kirk Cousins, cutting him makes the least amount of sense.
Like, if you're going to have to eat a lot of that money anyway, by cutting him,
don't.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Kirk Cousins I am not expecting Kirk Cousins to be out there and available as a free agent.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Now, of course, something could happen, and I could look like a complete and total fool because Atlanta's going to look around and be like, what do you mean we're going to keep the 36-year-old dead legs?
So you're likely looking at that sort of crop of, let's say, Darnold, Fields, Carr, and potentially Rodgers being the highest regarded names on that list, right? So I ask you, where would Dak Prescott fall on that list? Just for argument's sake, right?
Top.
Dak's under contract. I think so, too.
Dak's at the top of that list.
I think he would be at the very top.
I don't want to do the Rodgers thing. I mean, I know he started to look a little bit more like Aaron Rodgers at the end, but again, he's 40. Tom Brady. Nobody is Tom Brady for a reason. For many reasons, nobody is Tom Brady. But Tom Brady skewing our perspective on how long starting quarterbacks should last, I present to you Kirk Cousins, Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers at the end, and Rodgers has made it further than most of them do. I mean, you remember Peyton Manning at 39? And he also had the neck surgery. What was the procedure exactly? I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, but Peyton, I mean, it was the corpse of Peyton Manning. That wasn't Peyton Manning.
Well, okay, look, he had some phenomenal years after that surgery in Denver. I mean, he had some great years.
No, the final year.
Yeah,
Peyton
the
Manning's
final year, yes.
39-year-old
The Super Bowl year, yes.
Where Peyton Manning is being carried by Von Miller.
Yes, 100%.
And the Broncos defense. Dak would be at the top of the list as currently constituted.
For sure.
Dak Prescott, even though Dak Prescott turns the ball over, I trust him more than Sam Darnold. I've seen Sam Darnold do it for 1 year.
But Dak's not on this list. Sam Darnold is. And
neither is Tannehill, for what it's worth. Tannehill is a free agent.
He has not officially retired yet.
No, he's not going to.
You don't think he's going to?
No.
Okay, he didn't seem to come up at any point this year for teams that, and there were less
he came
quarterback
up for the
injuries,
Packers, and it wasn't a full-time job. He wants a full-time gig.
What do you think how do you think Aaron Rodgers' numbers kind of stacked up this year?
Like stacked up to what? The rest of
Just,
the league?
like, what would you guess?
League average? What's a league average quarter? Give me what is in your estimation is league average? Help me there at least.
I mean, just give me a guess on touchdown to interception rate. What Rodgers did this year? Touchdowns to picks.
I'll say 2.5 to 1.
He had 28 touchdowns to 11 interceptions.
Okay.
3,897 yards, completed 63% of his passes.
I don't want Aaron Rodgers. Do you?
Not necessarily. I mean, he is.
Imagine saying that into a microphone about the Tennessee Titans organization. I don't want Aaron Rodgers.
Good football has not necessarily followed him in the last couple of years.
It's not just the good football that doesn't follow him anymore. It's all the other stuff that follows him.
Yes.
I don't want the Netflix. I don't care about his ongoing personal feud with his family members. I don't care about him bringing Devontae Adams and Alan Lazard and all these other people. Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb's local. You're going to dust Randall Cobb. Respectfully to Randall Cobb. They're going to dust Randall Cobb
TV.
off. Oh, I mean, if Aaron Rodgers says, "Hey, bud, I'm coming to your town. Let's ride." What's to say?
Does Cobb live here?
Yeah, he got a house. Oh, wait, didn't it burn down? There was
I don't remember that. Randall Cobb's from East Tennessee. He went to Alcoa.
He's got a place here. I think there was a fire. I need to double check that. I don't want to recklessly speculate. I think he had some level of personal tragedy that I can't remember the specific details on.
Well, Brandon on the F&M Bank chat says, if they get the Packers VP over here, we might have him, talking about John Eric Sullivan. I mean, obviously the connections are there with Brinker, John Eric Sullivan.
JR says of my lack of interest in Aaron Rodgers, he says, Buck, you aren't a Titans fan. I don't care. I don't want to deal with it.
You have too many stances based on what you do or don't want to deal with. I hope you know that.
Why are you surprised that I have stances? As self-involved as I am, why are you surprised that I have stances that directly involve my personal interests?
So Sam Darnold's at the top of this list. And I know, we talk about it like he lost himself some money with the last couple performances, but he is still going to be, we believe, the highest sought-after free agent quarterback. The most sought-after free agent quarterback, I should say. Sam Darnold.
Yeah. I mean, if he hits it, right? If he hits the market. Because now it's never been more in question that they're going to tag him. Because it made all the sense in the world to tag it. And by the way, they won 14 games. Maybe it still makes sense to tag this guy. Like, he had 2 bad performances. They happen to come in the most scrutinized spot, right? It's Sunday Night Football, Week 18, against another 14-win team at the time for the division that's been tightly contested all year long. And he didn't crater, but he played poorly.
Yeah, he played poorly.
And then you have last night where he's taking the sacks and he's not putting together his best performance. He's clearly rattled. You have people making the jokes about he's seeing ghosts again.
Yeah. In any other division, Vikings are hosting a playoff game. That's never happened. A 14-win team being a wild card team. I know the Titans did it as a 13-win team in '99, but to go on the road as a wild card team with 14 wins, that's insane. By the way, we didn't mention this quickly. The Rams deserve so much credit, Sean McVay, for getting together the way they did. So many of those guys had to evacuate, obviously, with the tragic situation on the West Coast with the Palisades fires. So many of those guys had to be displaced with their families, and then suddenly the games moved to Arizona. And I know that there are so many people and survivors that are dealing with a lot worse things than NFL players. But I just think Sean McVay and that organization deserves a ton of credit for how they handled all of that.
Quick note from Tom Pelissero and many of the other insiders. Texans waived Deontay Johnson. So he would be looking for his 5th team in a calendar year. Well, I guess it's not a calendar year.
What is up with that? There's something...
Well, he doesn't want to play football.
Odd there, yeah. I mean, what is going on there?
It's Devondre Campbell, but without the walking off of the field, essentially.
It's just so odd. I never understand. I guess you're just looking for a check at that point. But it's like, just retire. If you don't want to play football, just retire.
I don't know. You know how much money these guys make. You guys were pocket watching Anthony Edwards for his level of fines. These guys, these paychecks do not come very often. That's why Will Compton is still out here trying to prop up the guys of year 10. So, I'm conflicted on this. In or out on, let's just go through the list. Sam Darnold, if he was available, in or out?
I think I would lean out because of the price tag. Yeah.
I'm out. Price tag, offensive line situation, not certain here.
Yeah.
He caved without a quality left tackle.
Yeah, and
maybe
the
they have a
best,
quality
arguably, it's hard to say Justin Jefferson, best receiver in the league after what Jamar Chase did.
Out.
His former teammate, but yeah, without Justin Jefferson.
Russell Wilson, in or out? I'm out. Don't want Russ.
You don't want Russ?
Don't want Russ. No, thank you.
I think Russ can play in time and in structure.
You don't got time. You're Brian Callahan. You don't got time.
Can play on time is what I'm saying. And in structure of the offense.
Sure, but there are also some statistics out there about Russ versus just specifically man coverage and how he just can't deal with it anymore from defenses. Daniel Jones, what's it cost? I can't believe that I'm more willing to go with Daniel Jones than I am Aaron Rodgers. What the hell is this world that we currently live in? I will not. I'll fence sit on Daniel Jones. I'll say, okay, maybe.
Derek Carr kind of feels like the most balanced option in terms of price tag and stability. And that's not a sexy name. And
Derek Carr is the one that I'm most willing to be in on. I'm not necessarily in on any of these options.
Yeah.
Other than it would be nice to see Sweet Marcus again, and he's a lovely person, and that would make me feel better about everything.
He is coming off a hand injury.
Carr?
Yeah. But, there's
but
a lot
you got Dak coming off injury, too, if he was available in this theoretical world. He's not. Right
but there are boxes that Carr checks, right? The stable veteran presence, the connection with Brian Callahan, the price tag. But he is coming off the injury, and he was certainly not going to put butts in seats, so to speak.
How about this, okay? What is your expectation of the Titans? What is Amy Adams-Strunk expectation of the Titans versus what's the fans' expectation of the Titans? What do Titans fans think is going to happen next year? What do you expect out of this coaching staff? Do you expect just simply better than 3 wins? What does that look like? 5? 7? 7 would be a godsend for this organization at this point in time. What is your level of expectation for 2025? And then how do you marry those expectations with the quarterbacks that are available, draft, free agency, potential trades, or otherwise? You got to keep it. It's like the Rand Carthon interview yesterday. What were your expectations?
Yeah.
And how do you marry those things versus what you got?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, my expectations were not to hear him go in on Chad Brinker.
No, that also was not my expectation. No. But we don't have to relitigate that. I think that you have to keep your expectations relative. You're not winning the Super. Can I safely say, without much criticism and pushback, that the Titans are not winning the Super Bowl in 2025? Anybody want to fight me on that? I got time. I got another segment. You want to take a swing at me?
You
Here
don't
we go.
know.
Wait, we get to take a swing at you?
I don't. A verbal swing.
Jackson's ears perked up.
Well, Jackson will lose that fight too. I think.
I don't know. I think that could be fun.
No, that would the only thing that Jackson would be able to do is hug me and fall to the ground.
Yeah, but I mean,
it would be effective.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There is some coaching news. The Browns have their new offensive coordinator.
Why wouldn't you just say there's some coaching news and then tease that coming up next?
Because it's the Browns. Why don't we just tease that coming up next?
Shut up. Last call for So no takers on pushback for the Titans aren't winning the Super Bowl in 2025? Nobody on the line there?
And lines did not light up on that one.
I wouldn't put too much stock into that at this point.
I know many people are just hanging on the edge of their seat and probably still just sitting in their cars. Maybe they've arrived at their destination and they're just waiting to hear who the new offensive coordinator is of the Cleveland Browns. It's Tommy Rees. They're promoting him.
Got any more Spy Tech jokes? I don't even think that's how you pronounce that man's last name.
Someone in the F&M Bank chat pointed out that you're hurt from when Bert got you with the with the Ashton Genty thing.
Oh, the jeans thing.
That he wears,
I don't think
he wears jeans under his football pants, and that's why he stands up straight in the back. He had you for the slightest second.
It was just a moment in time, but then I looked at him and he couldn't hold it together, and I was like, "You idiot." Talking about me, you idiot, not him. I mean, he's an idiot too. But.
Oh, the F&M Bank chat is also discussing.
Are you reading the AI summaries again?
What I hate how fleeting those are. They go away after like 5 seconds.
Well, they change though based on the dialogue.
Well, now they're discussing what the odds would be if Buck and Jackson got into a cage match.
Me minus 1,000.
I'm seeing 4-1 for Jackson.
Well, yeah, but I wouldn't fight you myself. I'd just pay somebody to do it.
I'm gonna whoop you, bud.
You might be able to whoop me.
So you'd be scared.
Yes, so that's fear.
I don't do anything for myself. That's not how this thing works. It's not fear. I'm just, what if I chip a nail?
Oh, he's scared, Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
You would destroy him.
Over there.
So Tommy Rees, who Bama fans wanted gone, is now an NFL offensive coordinator after a year as the passing game specialist and tight ends coach in Cleveland. He was also brought up as a potential Vrabel candidate at OC.
Tommy Rees?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting hire for New England with Drake May. Of course, the Titans general manager interviews continue on throughout the course of this week. And we'll see what they ultimately land on. Jets job or Titans job more attractive?
GM?
Yeah.
Man, I think it depends on the candidate and what you want out of the gig.
No, I think straight up, like Jets job or Titans job more attractive because you got one owner who's all over the place and you got another owner who's all over the place.
Yeah, but one owner has been a lot more all over the place for a lot longer, and that's the New York Jets and Woody Johnson.
Well, just more people care about the Jets, and
they've also been objectively worse for a longer amount of time.
Well, and he has also been he'd been the controlling owner since like the turn of the century, hadn't he? I mean, Woody Johnson's been with the Jets or has been the majority owner of the Jets, I think since the early 2000s.
In 2000, he purchased the New York Jets.
2000?
Yeah, the only semblance of success they've had.
2015. So it's a significantly bigger sample size of erraticism to pull from. But they also, they went to multiple AFC championships.
They went to the 2 with Mark Sanchez.
Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez. How far removed from that might we be? I don't know. I think if the Jets or if the Titans garnered as much media attention then as the Jets do, you could probably find all manner of dysfunction. I just don't think as many people care about the Titans as they do the Jets.
Here's the thing. I understand the principle of, well, of course, the Jets. You have final say. You're the general manager. Mm-hmm. And yes, but there are also a lot of other factories hovering over your head in terms of the owner and all the reporting about, nixing trades because of Madden ratings and all of these things.
But if you had somebody digging into the Titans the way that you have people digging into the Jets, who's to say what you would find? Is all I'm saying.
Not a teenager that's given locker room speeches, I don't think.
How old is Bryce Wasserman? 29?
I don't think he's giving out game balls after Titans games in the locker room.
Okay.
Are you alleging?
No.
Come on.
Just saying.
Come on, man.
Depends on how much you want to dig. That's all I'm saying. You ready for some polls?
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Are you buying or selling that the Cowboys have legit interest in Deion Sanders? 52% are buying. 48% say they're selling. I'm selling.
I think they have interest. Doesn't have to turn into anything concrete, but I think they have interest. I'd buy it. But they have interest in the Deion narrative.
Yeah.
If you have interest in the Deion narrative, then you have interest in Deion. Deion is currently the Cowboys and Deion are currently using each other.
Yes, right. The question is, do they have legit interest in Deion being their head football coach? Right now, I'm selling it. You're buying it.
I'd probably sell more than I buy.
How much have the last 2 games changed your opinion on Sam Darnold? A lot, a little, or not at all. 40.6%, majority go a lot. 33.5% say a little. 25.8% say not at all.
I'm good on the Darnold thing.
What is currently the best open head coaching job in the NFL? I left out the Jets and the Saints in this because you only get 4 options on the polls. And we can agree those are probably bottom of that barrel, right?
Yeah.
Jets and Saints. So, Cowboys, Bears, Jags, or Raiders.
God, how down bad are Saints fans, man? It's just such a
how down bad are Jets fans, man? I mean,
Jets fans are used to being miserable. The Saints are a proud franchise that have won a Super Bowl here in, I guess it's getting less and less recent memory, but they've had good coaching. They've had good players. They've had one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the sport, and now they're not even in hell. Jets fans are in hell. At least you know where you stand. Saints fans are in purgatory.
Jets fans did not know where they stood 2 years ago. Sky-high expectations. Even last offseason, you put them in the Super Bowl.
And then the quarterback ran out of the tunnel for the 9/11 day with the American flag and his Achilles pop.
Going from
6 plays into the game.
Going from high to low like that, the high of, oh my God, we're legit contenders, to the low of being back where they are, to me is better than Saints fans who just know what they are. And yeah, it sucks. But anyway, 46.8%, the most votes going to the Bears as the best job. Then it goes Cowboys, then Raiders, then Jags.
I don't know if you've got the number 1 overall pick at quarterback. Like, I understand why it's attractive and you shouldn't be scared of expectations, but the potential will get you fired.
Who has the number 1 overall pick at quarterback? The Titans. And
no, the Bears.
That's not a part of this.
The Bears. Are you talking about the Bears?
I see.
Job?
You're talking about Caleb Williams. I thought you meant having the number 1 pick. I see
the former number 1 overall pick.
I see what you're saying. Yes, but I don't think that's how these coaches view it. I think they view it as I have this talent at quarterback.
They view I can fix him, which is how you get Will Levis.
I don't think you need to fix Caleb Williams. I don't think that's the situation. He was a rookie this year. What is more likely to buy Brian Callahan more time in 2025? Young rookie quarterback or a stable veteran quarterback? 67% go with the stable vet.
Stable vet.
Those are the polls.
Again, I don't know. It may not matter. It genuinely may not matter. And we're just riding out the stretch here. Teron, we did the podcast on Friday, and he said, Brian Callahan's just this steak that you've been seasoning and marinating before you toss it on the grill in the summertime, because he's next. But, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess. That's going to do it for us today. Blaine and Zach, you got them coming up next. You got 3HL after that. You can keep it right here on 104.5 The Zone for all level of general manager discussion and wherever else they might take this. No prime time tonight for me because it's a Tuesday. See you tomorrow.